Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Hinata had actually found the courage to approach Naruto at the academy. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content, and do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto had the most beautiful eyes she'd ever seen. They were like the summer sky, like the tropical sea, and endlessly blue. Hinata thought privately, for she would never dare voice this aloud, that his eyes were more striking than any Hyuga eyes could ever hope to be. The pale pupilless eyes of her family's vaunted bloodline were cold, prideful, and intimidating. Naruto's eyes were the exact opposite. They were warm, vibrant, and full of life. Naruto's eyes were almost too pretty for a boy, she decided. Long, full eyelashes that curled up at the tips framed sapphire orbs. She could spend all day daydreaming about his eyes. Naruto was almost the exact antithesis to the Hyuga. Her clan was stern, almost cold. Dignity was to be preserved at all costs. Rules were to be adhered to at all times. With their unique silver-white eyes and dark hair, the Hyuga were unmistakably the elite of the elite and the pride of Konoha. Naruto, on the other hand, was anything but. He was an unrecognized orphan with no background. He embodied chaos and flaunted the rules. It seemed fitting that, physically, he was as far from a Hyuga as it was possible to get. He had sun-kissed golden hair, not brown or black, and adorable whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks. And he was so strong! He seemed to bounce back from any obstacle with little to no effort. Whenever he got knocked down, he got right back up and kept going. He was like no one else she'd ever met in her short life. He was everything she'd ever wanted to be. It was no wonder she developed a horrible crush on him the instant she'd seen him. Currently, she was in class trying desperately, with limited success, to keep her focus on Iruka-sensei's lesson instead of on her blonde classmate. She couldn't afford to miss a thing. She was only in her second year at the academy, but already her performance shamed her father and her clan. Last year, she had received decent scores all across the board and been ranked somewhere in the upper middle of her class. But for the Hyuga, a decent score was abysmal. A Hyuga should ace any test of skill or knowledge, and to rank around the middle of her class was an embarrassment. A Hyuga should easily be able to surpass his, or her, peers. This held doubly true for the Hyuga heiress. She needed to do better this year. If she failed to score perfect marks this year, she didn't even want to imagine what her punishment would be. She shuddered inwardly. It didn't help matters that her cousin Niji, who was just 1 year older than her, had ranked first in his class. He had outperformed all his peers, seemingly without any effort. Already, he was hailed as the next great genius of her generation, and he was only 8. To make matters worse, he was the prodigy of the Hyuga branch family, while she was the heiress of the Hyuga main family. The lesson of the day was memory retention techniques used by shinobi in the field. Iruka-sensei was going over various mind games to strengthen memory recall and different ways to memorize information quickly. It was intriguing. She could see useful applications for these memory tricks outside of the shinobi field. For instance, she could use them to remember all the guests, by name and title, at the formal political dinners with her family that she was forced to meet and greet. She could also use them to memorize names and qualities of medicinal plants. Naruto! Pay attention! Barked Iruka-sensei, as he threw an eraser at the blonde. The class snickered as the eraser hit him in the face. The blonde boy had apparently been simultaneously preparing spitballs, folding paper airplanes, and carving the words Sasuke sucks on his desk with a kunai. Naruto took multitasking to a whole new level. These memory retention techniques are very important for a ninja. And they're especially important for you. You can use them to help you remember your lessons and homework assignments, especially since you seem to keep forgetting everything I say. But Iruka-sensei. No buts, Naruto. If you're going to be a ninja. I am. If you're going to be a ninja, Iruka continued as if he hadn't been interrupted, then you'll need to be able to remember mission details after only hearing them once. You'll need to memorize names, faces, ranks and techniques from the bingo book. And what if you're sent on an espionage mission? After you infiltrate the enemy's base, you'll need to memorize exact numbers of enemy ninja and escape routes. If you discover their plans and strategies, you'll need to memorize those too. You'll need to do all this without writing any of it down. Hi, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said with a gusty sigh, rubbing his head where the eraser had struck. Cheer up, Naruto. You can also use these techniques to memorize my lectures. Iruka grinned. Tell you what. If you can prove to me that you've mastered these memory retention techniques, I'll let you get away without taking notes in class for a week, because I'll assume you will memorize the lectures instead. All right, Iruka-sensei. Why didn't you say so before? Naruto pumped his fist in the air. Hinata almost giggled at his behavior. He was just so full of life. That applies everyone else, too. The rest of the class perked up at that announcement. Iruka continued with the lecture. Now, as part of the midterm exams next week, you will be expected to demonstrate your ability to retain information using the memory techniques that we just discussed. An audio recording of 5 different mission details and 5 hypothetical conversations between enemy ninja will be played once, for the entire class, first thing in the morning. So don't be late. After lunch, you will write down every detail that you can remember from all 10 scenarios. Your grade is based on how much detail you have memorized. The class groaned. Your homework assignment for this week will be to practice all of these memory techniques using these. Iruka held up a cassette tape from a box on his desk. Make sure you each take one before you leave today. Each of these tapes contains 60 minutes of different scenarios you may encounter in the field, as well as a handful of bingo book entries, mostly well-known ninja. I expect you to listen to the tape, write down what you can remember, then go back and listen again, to see how much you were able to remember. The lunch bell rang, signaling the end of the lesson and the beginning of the lunch hour. The class, as one entity, swarmed out the doors of the academy and into the fresh air outside. Hinata noticed that her crush was lingering behind, deliberately waiting for all the other students to exit. He must want to speak with Iruka-sensei in private. She was torn, hesitating just outside the classroom. It was wrong to eavesdrop on other people's conversations. Hinata knew this. But the chance to find out more about her crush was so tempting. In the end, her curiosity overrode her conscience. She stayed where she was, out of sight of both Naruto and Iruka-sensei, but not out of earshot. Iruka-sensei? Both Iruka and Hinata were surprised at the hesitant tone coming from the normally confident blonde. Yes, Naruto? What can I help you with? Asked Iruka kindly. It's about our homework assignment. The assignment is very straightforward. I know it might not be fun, but if you master these techniques, it'll really be good for you, encouraged Iruka. It's not that, sensei, Naruto said in a small voice. Hinata had to strain to hear him. I don't own a cassette player, he said in a rush. At Iruka's look of surprise, he hurried to explain himself. I don't own a cassette player. And I can't purchase one. The stipend I receive for my school expenses won't cover something like this. I barely have enough for our textbooks and practice kunai and shuriken since those are so expensive. For someone like Hinata who had been trained from a young age to read both body language and tone of voice, the shame of having to admit to money problems was crystal clear. Can I borrow a tape player for the week? Please. I promise I won't damage it, Naruto asked hopefully. Outside, Hinata was momentarily stunned to hear that her crush couldn't afford something as simple as a tape player. Then she berated herself for her lack of insight. She knew he was an orphan. Coming from one of the richest clans in Konoha, she'd never had to worry about money. Still, that's not a good excuse. Of course, he wouldn't have money. He was an unrecognized orphan with no inheritance, and he was too young to work. She was so distracted by this revelation that she completely missed what they were saying next. Naruto, Iruka said slowly. What do you mean when you said that your practice kunai and shuriken were expensive? Those things are dirt cheap. Practice kunai and shuriken intended for academy students were usually damaged or blunted and just one step away from being melted down for metal. I know approximately how much Naruto receives from the Orphan Scholarship Fund. It should be more than enough. I buy them from the main weapon shop downtown, by the Hokage Tower. They're cheapest there. Everywhere else is more expensive. I've checked. But they still cost about 2,500 yen a pair. Naruto looked down. 2,500 yen a pair. That's at least 5 times more than practice weapons are worth. Naruto was being deliberately overcharged. Iruka knew that the villagers despised Naruto's existence. He was ashamed to admit that for a while, he had as well. Until Naruto had entered his classroom, he never thought much of the blonde, if he thought of him at all. But in the year that he'd been teaching Naruto, he had become fond of the little troublemaker. Naruto was just a boy, very much like Iruka had been. Naruto was quickly becoming the little brother he'd never had. Of course, Iruka had always been aware that the villagers were rude and unkind to Naruto. But to charge over 5 times what the practice weapons were worth. This was the first time he'd really understood, in his heart, and really saw, with uncovered eyes, how Naruto was abused and mistreated. Iruka seethed internally with anger. He took deep breath to try and calm himself. Naruto, still looking down, missed the dark look that crossed Iruka's face. Listen, Naruto. I'm sorry, I guess I never realized that ninja tools would be so expensive. Iruka thought furiously, how could he help Naruto without injuring his pride? More importantly, without bringing up the injustices Naruto was suffering? That would lead to too many questions he couldn't answer. I know. But as an instructor for the academy, I receive significant discounts on practice weapons for academy students, he lied through his teeth. At least the smile on his face was genuine. So the next time you need to buy them, come to me first, okay? I can help you buy them for much less than what you're paying now. Really? Wow. Thanks a lot, Iruka-sensei. You're the best. Naruto's enthusiastic shout brought Hinata out of her self-chastisement. Unfortunately, that won't help you right now. Iruka sighed. The academy has a few tape players. But I'm afraid that students aren't allowed to use them without supervision, and they aren't allowed out of the classroom. Naruto's shoulders drooped. The best I can do is to let you stay in here with me during lunch times. You can use the tape player to practice then. Hinata slipped her hand into her pack. Fumbling a little, she felt for the cold, hard plastic of her own personal tape player. In a rare moment of indulgence, she had splurged and purchased a little player for herself, so that she could listen to her favorite music whenever she wanted. She could help him. This was her chance. She could give Naruto her player. The Hyuga weren't the richest clan in Konoha for nothing. There were several other tape players scattered about the estate that she could use for her assignment instead. But if she gave it to him now, then Naruto would know that she'd been eavesdropping. What would he think of her? Would he hate her for spying on him? Her heart trembled with indecision. To run forward? Or to run away? What should she do? In an alternate time and place, Hinata did not move. She did not offer him her tape player. And she did not find the courage to offer her friendship to Naruto until after their first Chunin exams. He would go through the next 5 years of the academy friendless and lonely while she watched from afar. One small action at the right time, at the right place, would change the world. In this time and place, Hinata took one small step. One small significant step. Followed by another, then another. I won't run away. I won't run away. Until she was standing before the two surprised males. Hinata? Her sensei asked, surprised. But to Hinata, only Naruto existed. Hinata held her tape player in both hands and bowed quickly, thrusting it in Naruto's general vicinity, and almost hitting him in the chest with it in the process. "FF for you," she managed to squeak out. Naruto reached out hesitantly and took the player from her hands. "This is for me?" He couldn't contain his disbelief. He could count on one hand all the presents he'd ever received. And now the quietest girl in his class, who had never even spoken to him, not even to say hi, was giving him her own tape player? He didn't understand it, not at all. Hinata didn't quite trust her voice. So she settled for just nodding vigorously. "Why?" "Well, I'm SS sorry. I'm SS sorry," she stammered. "I overheard you SS say you didn't have one SSO." Her voice trailed off and she shut her eyes in a futile attempt to avoid the revulsion that they must be feeling at her shameful confession. Oh why did she not run away? Naruto would certainly hate her now. She had just confessed to deliberately spying on him. There was no way she could possibly justify her actions. The next several seconds were the longest in her life. She dared a peek at her crush only instead of anger or disgust, which she fully expected, she saw wariness. "You heard me say I needed a tape player. And you want to give me yours?" Hi. He gave her a long searching look. Just as she was about to fidget nervously, the wariness in his face vanished, replaced by happiness. Suddenly, she was nearly knocked over by an exuberant blonde who had enthusiastically thrown his arms around her. "Thank you?" All sentient thought ground to a halt. His beautiful eyes, the ones she'd spent hours daydreaming about, were so close. Too close. Hinata felt her cheeks burning. The sudden rush of blood to her face left her stumbling, and on the verge of fainting. Naruto had already overbalanced with his joyful movements. With an extra cheerful shake, he almost sent both of them crashing into the ground. Luckily, Naruto was able to right himself, and her, at the last moment, saving them from an undignified tumble. But in doing so his face came dangerously close to hers. For 3 full seconds, Hinata could feel his eyelashes brushing against her cheek. Naruto let go almost as quickly as he tackled her, leaving her head spinning. Now that there was distance between them, she remembered to breathe again. "Thanks, Hinata. You're the best." And with those parting words, Naruto dashed outside. Iruka smiled at the still blushing girl as straightened his desk. Then he, too, left for lunch. Ah, puppy love. Alone in the classroom, Hinata raised her hand to her still tingling cheek. That night, Hinata dreamt of blue eyes and butterfly kisses. Finn. Hinata was the strangest girl he'd ever met. He never noticed her before, but ever since that day, the day she gave him her tape player, He couldn't seem to stop thinking about her. She was nothing like the other girls in his class. The other girls were always together in groups, or in pairs, as if they needed the support of numbers. Hinata was always alone. The other girls loved to gossip and chatter and giggle. Hinata rarely spoke. He'd never heard her laugh either, but he'd caught her smiling once or twice. The other girls were loud and bossy, especially that Ino. Hinata was quiet and timid. Then there was her physical appearance. Most girls wore bright colors and things to make them look pretty. Sakura wore bright red. Ino wore bright purple. Hinata, on the other hand, wore an unflattering plain beige jacket that looked too big for her. And what was wrong with her eyes? They were such a weird color. Not quite silver. Not quite white. Not quite lavender. Weird. But the strangest thing about her eyes was the lack of pupils. Was it a birth defect maybe? Naruto would not learn about bloodlines and related jujutsu until his 3rd year of the academy. She looked like she was blind, but obviously she could see just fine. She was definitely the strangest girl he ever met. And why had she given him a gift? Aside from the Sandaime Hokage, no one had ever given Naruto anything just because. There was always a price. Always. He never received birthday presents, Christmas presents, or any kind of presents. Why had she given him her tape player? The question burned. Was she playing a prank on him? The day after, he almost expected her to yell, "Just kidding. I want my tape player back." Or even worse, for her to accuse him of stealing it. It wouldn't be the first time he was accused of a theft he hadn't committed. But no, that couldn't be right. Iruka-sensei was there when she gave it to him. If she were going to trick him like that, then she would have waited until there were no witnesses. 2 weeks had gone by since that day. By now, he was sure it wasn't a prank, or something would have happened already. He caught her looking at him more than once, not with cold, hateful eyes, the way the older villagers looked at him. Did she think he was funny looking? But then, every time tried to catch her eye or get her attention, she would look away. It was almost like she was trying to avoid him. Was she afraid of him? Should he talk to her? He didn't understand her at all. Well, whatever her reasons were, Naruto was grateful for the tape player. He used it to practice those memory retention techniques Iruka taught them. Again and again and again. He really mastered them. Then he started to use them during Iruka's lessons. He treated Iruka's lecture like another memory exercise. At first, he did it because he was simply bored in class, and doing memory exercises to Iruka's lecture made the class go by faster. He quickly discovered the first side benefit of doing this. No more flying erasers aimed at his head, because he was actually paying attention. He didn't discover the second side benefit until Iruka posted the results of their last exam. To his great surprise, and everyone else's, he aced the last exam. It was the first time he had ever done something well, better than well, instead of coming in dead last. Iruka-sensei had even congratulated him before the entire class. Naruto swelled with pride just remembering it. Of course, he wasn't memorizing whole lectures. But using the memory tricks, he could at least memorize the important points of the lectures quickly. Combine that with actually paying attention, and Naruto was well on his way to academic success. Hinata was genuinely happy. When Naruto did so spectacularly on their last exam, she was so proud of him. She imagined she felt a bit like a proud parent would towards their baby's first steps. She was just bursting with pride. She had always known that Naruto was smart. It upset her whenever the other kids called him stupid or dead last. To have her belief vindicated felt satisfying. And she was proud of herself. It was such an alien concept, being proud of herself, that it took several days for her to correctly identify the emotion. She, the Hyuga failure, had done something right for once. She had helped Naruto-kun. And he'd called her the best. Of course, it was just an expression, and he didn't really mean she was actually the best. She was a weakling. How could she possibly be the best at anything? But he had been happy. She had been the one to make him happy with her gift. For someone like her, it was a major accomplishment, almost a minor miracle. She wanted to approach him again to talk, to be his friend. But what if he didn't want to talk to her? What if he rejected her? Hinata sighed. What little courage she'd found to approach him that day was lost again. Next year, we will be introducing the basics of ninjutsu. Iruka smiled, as he noticed nearly every student sit up a little bit straighter. Shikamaru was still slumped in his seat. Naruto in particular was almost bouncing in his seat with excitement. Ninjutsu was the calling card of shinobi. The first 2 years of the academy were focused on basic taijutsu, basic weaponry, and non-combat ninja techniques, including history of the shinobi nations, basic strategy, and memory retention techniques, much to Naruto's disappointment. To hear the word ninjutsu before 3rd year was always cause for excitement. But before we get to that, we need to learn chakra theory and master the 12 fundamental hand seals used for manipulating chakra. What is chakra? Irika wrote the word on the blackboard as he asked the question. He turned back to the class. Chakra is the combination of mental, physical, and spiritual energies in the body. Chakra is essential to life. Without it we would die. Chakra is also the essential ingredient to performing any shinobi jutsu. Hand seals are the second ingredient. Hand seals are used to change the chakra within your body into a jutsu. To perform a jutsu, you first summon chakra, then transform it into a jutsu using a hand seal, or a series of hand seals. In an actual fight, you will have to form hand seals while evading enemy attacks, so being able to make hand seals quickly and accurately is critical. The faster you can do the hand seals, the faster you can pull off a jutsu. And in a real fight, fractions of a second can mean the difference between life and death. Before you leave the academy, performing hand seals quickly should be as natural to you as breathing. First we will work on accuracy. Then we will work on speed. Now I'm going to demonstrate the 12 fundamental hand seals. The trick to remembering them is to say the name aloud while forming the seal with your hands. Practice this until your fingers can move instinctively. Irika went through hand seals, calling out the names as he demonstrated them. He held each seal for several seconds so that his students could get a good look at it, before moving on to the next one. Rat. Dragon. Monkey. Ox. Snake. Bird. Tiger. Horse. Dog. Hare. Ram. Boar. The next hour was spent going around the classroom. Irika had each student form the hand seals for him. He gently corrected fingers and hand positions as he went along. The key to learning hand seals was repetition, but all the repetition in the world was no good if the seal was formed incorrectly. So Irika didn't move on until he was certain the student knew the correct finger positions. Doing this didn't actually take much time. A majority of the students, about 70%, Irika guessed, came from ninja backgrounds, where one or both parents were ninja. Some even came from prominent ninja clans, like the Hyuga and the Uchiha. Those students already knew the 12 hand signs and even had decent speed for academy students. Naruto was not one of those students. Irika dedicated a good 10 minutes to helping him with his hands. When class let out for lunch, Naruto was cornered by Kenta and Jiru. The two of them came from minor ninja families and took great joy in rubbing Naruto's failures in his face. Hey, dead last. How are you going to be Hokage if you have to take remedial lessons from Irika-sensei? Kenta laughed. I'm going to be Hokage, mocked Jiru. You're so slow, I can finish all 12 hand seals before you can even do one. I have a better chance of becoming Hokage than you do. I am going to be Hokage. Naruto shot back. You won't be faster than me for long. Once I get some practice, I bet I can finish all 12 hand seals before you can. Yeah, right. Not in a million years. Have fun with your remedial lessons. Loser. With one last shove, the boys ran off to enjoy the rest of their lunch break. Behind a corner, Hinata had witnessed the entire confrontation. Naruto sat down and started to slowly practice his hand seals. His eyes burned with determination. She heard him mutter. I am going to be Hokage. I am going to be faster. I'll be the fastest in the class. I won't give up. Then in a loud voice, monkey. Good luck, Naruto-kun. I know you can do it. A few days later, Naruto had memorized all the hand seals. But his speed still needed work, a lot of work. He didn't understand it. No matter how many hours he practiced, he was still slower than most of his classmates, even the ones from non-ninja families, like Sakura. I'll ask Irika-sensei today after class. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Irika-sensei will help me. Irika-sensei? Irika looked up from grading papers to see Naruto hovering at the door of his office. Yes, Naruto? Can you give me any tips to help me get faster at making hand seals? I've been practicing really hard, but for some reason I'm still the slowest person in the class. Have a seat. Irika gestured at the chair in front of his desk and waited for Naruto to get comfortable. How many hours a day are you practicing them? At least 3 hours a day. Sometimes 5. Irika fought to keep the surprise from his face. That was above and beyond what he expected from most students. Naruto was certainly tenacious. But if that was true, and he had no reason to lie, then Naruto should be one of the fastest in the class. So why wasn't he? Unless Irika had never seen Naruto play ninja games with the other children. Could it be? I'm glad you're working so hard, Naruto. It is strange. With that much practice, you really should be much faster. Then why am I not? Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong, Irika-sensei? You're not doing anything wrong. Irika hesitated. He really didn't want to bring up Naruto's isolation from the other children. But if he were right about this, then it would make a lot of sense. Naruto, have you ever played Cat's Cradle? You mean that string game? Naruto shook his head, looking confused. No. What does that have to do with anything? Have you ever wondered why Cat's Cradle is such a popular children's game in Konoha? Irika slipped into lecture mode. It's not a very popular game in most places, except the hidden villages. Cat's Cradle isn't just a children's game for fun and passing time. It's actually an early training exercise. Cat's Cradle develops coordination and strengthens the muscles in your fingers and hands. It makes your fingers more nimble and flexible and improves manual dexterity. Most ninja parents teach their children to play the game before they can walk. Children from civilian families will play it, too. Even if their parents don't teach it to them, they learn by playing with other kids. We do live in a ninja village, after all. Think of it like lifting weights and running laps for taijutsu. Even if your taijutsu forms and stances are perfect, without lifting weights and running laps, you'll never be a taijutsu master. Cat's Cradle is like physical conditioning for hand seals, the same way weights and laps are physical conditioning for taijutsu. It's not part of the curriculum because most children have already learned it before they enter the academy. None of the other kids would play with me. Not even when I asked? Naruto said softly. Irika winced. It was exactly as he thought. Naruto was just a kid. He shouldn't be treated like this. Sometimes, I hate being right. Irika dug around his desk drawers. Now where is it? Ah. There it is. That's all right, Naruto. Irika smiled and held out a red string. He knotted the ends together to form a loop. Would you like to learn how to play right now? Naruto stuffed the red string into his pocket as he stepped outside the academy. Class was over for the day, but there were still a lot of kids hanging out on the premises. Some kids, like Kiba, stayed behind for extra training and after-school sparring with other kids. Some kids, like Sakura and Ino, stayed just to gossip and hang out with their friends. Others, like Shikamaru, stayed to avoid chores at home. Although Naruto did not know this, Hinata stayed behind for two reasons: to avoid her family and to catch an extra glimpse of him. Naruto thought back to his meeting with Irika. Irika had explained that there were two different versions of Cat's Cradle, a civilian version and a ninja version. The ninja version had about 30 extra steps and was more complex. Also, the ninja version had an advanced level, with 2 strings and required 3 players. After playing several rounds of Cat's Cradle, the ninja version, of course, Irika had told him to find a friend to play it with. Flashback. I think you've got the hang of it, Naruto. Keep practicing, okay? If you can find a friend to play this with, come back here, and I'll teach you to play the advanced level of Cat's Cradle, since we'll need 3 people for that. The 3-player version is actually quite challenging and fun. The 2 strings together form intricate designs and a single mistake can tangle you in knots very quickly. Flashback. Naruto frowned. Find a friend to play this with? Yeah, right. No one had ever played with him before. He didn't see how that was going to change anytime soon. But he really wanted to play again. It had been fun, playing with Irika-sensei. He wanted to play it again, and not just because it would help his speed with hand seals. Unfortunately, he didn't think the other kids would play with him. I won't give up before I try. I'll ask around anyways. No way, man. Why would I want to play a baby game with you? Asked Kiba. He grinned, fangs showing. Want to spar instead? I'll go easy on you. What are you, 3? That's such a boring game. Ino flounced away. You get away from me. You probably have cooties. Sakura ran to rejoin Ino. Cat's Cradle? It's so troublesome, drawled Shikamaru, lying on his back. I just want to watch the clouds and take a nap. Ask me some other time. Hinata wavered with indecision. She'd heard Naruto asking around for a partner to play Cat's Cradle with. She didn't understand why he wanted to play a children's game. But if he wanted to play, she would play. She wanted desperately to go up to him and volunteer to be his partner. But she just couldn't. That was much too forward for the timid girl. If only he would ask her. Ask me, please. I'm here. He didn't see her. She saw him turn to leave. Ask me? Please. She took one small step forward. Naruto growled in frustration. He'd been shot down, not once, not twice, but 4 times. 4. He might as well go home. There was no one else he could ask. A small sound and a flash of beige at the corner of his eye caught his attention. What was that? I could have sworn. Wait. Is that Hinata? In an alternate time and place, Naruto never noticed Hinata standing there, so he never thought to ask her, and he never found a partner for Cat's Cradle. Instead, Naruto worked hard to improve his speed little by little through sheer repetition on his own, and with a few more rounds of Cat's Cradle with Iruka-sensei. However, Iruka had other responsibilities and couldn't dedicate a great deal of time for one student, no matter how fond he was of Naruto. He would remain in the bottom quartile of the class, and never reach his full potential. One small action at the right time, at the right place, would change the world. In this time and place, Naruto had just spent 2 weeks wondering about Hinata and watching her, so he noticed her standing there, and thus thought to ask her. Her small act of kindness gave him hope. Here was a person who didn't hate him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given her tape player to him. Dare he? Should he risk being shot down yet again? I'll ask her. She might say no like all the rest, but she might say yes. Maybe she's so strange normal people don't like me. She's not normal at all. She's different, so maybe she'll be my friend? Hinata, right? Naruto shuffled his feet a little. Would you? I mean, I know it's kind of stupid, but would you like to play Cat's Cradle with me? Hi. Really? That's awesome. Come on. Naruto was nervous as they sat on the front steps of the academy to play. No. Scratch that. He was beyond nervous. He was about to have a full-blown panic attack. The training that Cat's Cradle was supposed to give him was irrelevant. That was neither here nor there. He almost couldn't believe she'd said yes. It was the first time anyone his age agreed to play with him. Playing together was the first step to making friends, right? Friends played together. This was his chance. If he made a good enough impression, then maybe she'd agree to play with him again. That could lead to real friendship, something he'd only dreamed about. I can't mess this up. I have to do this right. Naturally, the moment he decided not to mess up, he ruined it. Naruto was so flustered that it didn't take more than a few steps into Cat's Cradle, the ninja version, of course, before the red string was one giant knot. He looked down at it in dismay. Hinata gently removed the string from his hands and worked on straightening the string out. It's all okay, Naruto-kun. Would you like TT to try again? Naruto could only nod. He looped the string twice around his fingers and held his hands out to try again. 3 giant knots later, disaster struck. Somehow, he didn't know how, somehow he managed to tangle the string around both their hands, inadvertently, tying their hands together. Now they were stuck. Naruto swore internally. Idiot! I'm such an idiot. My big chance to make a friend, and I go and ruin it. She'll never play with me again. He glanced at his partner, only to see that her face was bright red. She was nice to me and now she's angry. Why can't I do anything right? I'm sorry, he said somberly without his usual volume. I'm sorry I'm such a horrible player. I'm sorry I made you angry. Damn it. I really messed up. I'm always messing up. No wonder nobody wants to be friends with me. Heck, I wouldn't want to be friends with me either. Hinata, who was blushing and not red-faced with anger, was startled by the misery on his face and the self-loathing in his voice. She rushed to reassure him, and for the first time, spoke straight from the heart, without thinking. No! I'm not mad. I want to be your friend. Do you mean it? Naruto looked at her in wonder. Hi. You want to be my friend? He asked again, just to be sure. When she nodded, pure joy erupted within him. The rush made him giddy. His heart felt strangely full. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. She had accepted all his mistakes without derision. She wasn't angry. She accepted him, as he was. He had a friend. Thank you, he whispered at last. Had she done the right thing? Hinata wondered. She had quickly realized that he was a beginner at Cat's Cradle, but she didn't mind. Except Naruto had looked so upset. And the more upset he got, the more mistakes he made, which only made him more upset. Hinata was intimately familiar with those feelings. So she simply helped correct his mistakes. When their hands were tied together, she could only blush. And then he was so hurt and miserable. The desperate need to comfort him made her bold. She would never have spoken so recklessly and impulsively otherwise. Now, although there was a sheen of tears in his eyes, his joy was unmistakable. Had she done the right thing? Yes. Naruto smiled at her. Hinata smiled back. All right. Naruto was back to his confident, excitable self. Let's go find Iruka-sensei to help us get untied. Then we can play again. I'll get it this time for sure. Naruto jumped to his feet. He was in such a hurry that he forgot to account for the law of inertia, which states, An object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. When Naruto leapt to his feet, he became a moving object that wanted to keep moving. Hinata, who was quite comfortable where she was, became the stationary object that wanted to stay still. Unfortunately, the stationary object and the moving object were still tied together. The result was painful collision. Hinata was forcibly pulled up from a sitting position, while Naruto's upward leap was forcibly reversed. He was jerked backwards. Their heads collided with a resounding crack. Dazed and disoriented, Hinata opened her eyes and promptly forgot about the pain in her head. She had landed on top of Naruto with their hands trapped between their chests. More importantly, they were face to face, and so close that their noses were touching. And all she could see were blue eyes. Hinata instantly turned the color of a ripe tomato. It was too much for the poor girl. "Oh no! I'm going to faint!" When Iruka arrived on the scene a few minutes later, he found Naruto sitting on the steps with an unconscious Hinata lying beside him. Her head was pillowed on his lap. Their hands were still tied together by red string. Iruka raised an eyebrow. "Do I want to know what happened here?" Iruka-sensei. Hinata and I were playing cat's cradle and we got stuck," Naruto said in embarrassment. "When I jumped up to find you, I knocked our heads together. I think I must have hit her head too hard because Hinata passed out. Can you help us out?" That night, Hinata fell asleep with a smile on her face. She, the weakest Hyuga, had done it again, something right. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as big a failure as she thought. Maybe she was able to change a little bit. Hinata dreamt of blue eyes and Eskimo kisses. Fin. Life was good for Uzumaki Naruto. For once in his miserable life, things were going his way. He and Hinata had spent hours playing cat's cradle every day after class. After his nerves settled, Naruto was able to concentrate on the game. He mastered it quickly. To Hinata's secret disappointment, their hands did not get entangled again. They had even played a few rounds of the advanced level of cat's cradle with Iruka-sensei. In addition to the game, Naruto continued to practice hand seals on his own for several hours every night. Within a month his speed had dramatically improved. Within 2, he had lived up to his boast of being the fastest at forming hand seals in the class. Naruto grinned. Just yesterday Iruka-sensei had congratulated him on his progress in front of the whole class. Naruto had managed to tie with one Uchiha Sasuke who was not pleased about sharing his pedestal. For the first time in his life, Naruto was the center of admiration, albeit grudging admiration, among his classmates. Iruka-sensei was proud of him, too. The positive attention felt absolutely amazing. He'd never been able to gain any sort of positive attention before. The best he'd been able to get was negative attention, as the butt of jokes or in the form scolding from Iruka-sensei for pulling pranks in class. It hadn't mattered though. The negative attention kept his loneliness at bay, and kept the cold, hateful eyes of the villagers from erasing his existence. For a little while, at least, the pain would diminish. Becoming a clown and a prankster wasn't so bad if it meant someone would really see him, really look at him, and know that he was alive. Naruto felt wonderful. Praise from Iruka, grudging, respect from his classmates, and gentle support from Hinata, it warmed his soul. Nothing could be better. Naruto, who craved any attention whether it was positive or negative, was simply addicted. Even after a full day, the warmth lingered. It formed an invisible barrier between him and the pain of loneliness, and even muted the nasty stares of the villagers. In an alternate time and place, Naruto became a clown and a prankster because no matter how hard he tried or how hard he worked, he was still the dead last at the academy. He was not stupid. He just wasn't given the tools to succeed. Any attention was better than no attention. In this time and place, Naruto, with a little help, had achieved some academic success and loved the praise and recognition that came with it. Now that he knew it was possible, and it was even better than he imagined, Naruto was determined to do it again. He would work hard, and pay attention in class. He was going to be the best damned ninja he could be. Who wanted to be laughed at when he could be admired and respected? He wasn't going to be a clown. That kind of recognition was unpalatable now that he'd had a taste of real recognition. And so, the world changed. Well, Naruto thought for a moment and grinned mischievously. He could still pull a few pranks every now and then for old time's sake. Life was good. But there was one thing that could make it better, aside from becoming the Hokage Hinata. Although he spent the day with her just yesterday, he already missed his friend. His friend. Just thinking the word in his head made him giddy. Sure, Hinata was a strange girl. But that only made her more special in his eyes. They had talked a lot while playing cat's cradle. Okay, so he had talked a lot while playing cat's cradle. Naruto was surprised at some of the things he discovered. She was a lot of fun to be with. She had a great sense of humor, when he could get her to stop being so proper, and she was a great listener. When she listened, Naruto felt like he had her whole attention. He felt no. He knew he was important to her. When he was with her, the pain of loneliness, of being hated for reasons he didn't understand, wasn't just diminished, it completely melted away. She was his precious friend. He couldn't wait until the weekend was over and he could see Hinata again. Hinata dreaded weekends. They couldn't go by fast enough for her. She knew she was an embarrassment to her clan. The fact that she was sent to the ninja academy for public instruction instead of being privately trained by her father or a senior Hyuga clansman was proof enough. When her father sent her to the academy, he had washed his hands of her ninja training. Hinata had inadvertently overheard him speaking to one of the elders. Flashback. Are you certain you want to send Hinata to the ninja academy? Asked Hyuga Hideki. As an elder of the Hyuga main branch, he was a traditionalist and always questioned the changes in tradition. Hinata has shown very little aptitude in her training. I will not waste my time on training her. She can attend the ninja academy and learn the ninja ways there. Hinata is the Hyuga family's successor. When she graduates the academy, she will become a genin. Missions that genin undertake have the possibility of death. If she dies on a mission, then she is a defect. A weak defect who dies on a genin-ranked mission is not needed by the Hyuga. And there is still Hanabi. As you say, Hayashi-sama. Flashback. Knowing that her father thought so little of her hurt deeply. Even though she was an embarrassment, sent away to the academy for her ninja training, Hinata was still the Hyuga heiress. This meant that weekends were spent with her father's advisors, never her father, training to become the next clan head. Her Hyuga teachers were stern taskmasters. A nod of approval was rare. Success was expected as a matter of course. Errors were met with harsh reprimands. They were nothing like Irika-sensei. She was drilled for hours in politics, diplomacy, etiquette, economics, and law, all things necessary for an accomplished clan head. That wasn't so bad. In fact, Hinata was naturally adept in those subjects. She rather enjoyed them. While her teachers never praised her progress, at least they never criticized her either. It was her other lessons, the ones for Juken, the Hyuga gentle fist style, that she dreaded. She could never seem to meet the expectations set for her in Juken. Her Byakugan had trouble seeing all the tenketsu, the chakra points in the chakra circulatory system. Her chakra control wasn't good enough. Her stance was weak. Her speed was lacking. Her defense was poor. Against other Hyuga children she was easily defeated. For the air, that was simply unacceptable. She cringed at her terrible performance in Juken. She rubbed at the painful bruises that dotted her arms and legs. Her Juken instructors, and her sparring opponents, did not hold back. Ever. Training sessions in Juken were always painful. Often excessively painful, Hinata thought. The one bright spot to her weekends was Hanabi. Hinata adored her baby sister. The toddler was just starting to speak in full sentences. Hanabi was the only person in her family who was always happy to see her. "Oh, Nizan! Play with Hanabi-chan?" Her mistakes and failures didn't mean anything to the child. To her, Hinata was not the family disappointment. To her, Hinata was simply her big sister, the one who played with her, the one who always made time for her, the one who sang her songs and tucked her in at night. Training in the Byakugan and in Juken typically started at the age of 3. In just 1 year, Hanabi's training would start. And Hinata was afraid, so very afraid, that when it did she would lose Hanabi. She was afraid that Hanabi would become like the rest of her family. Cold. Unfeeling. And intolerant of weakness. Intolerant of Hinata. The thought of losing Hanabi made her want to cry. She pushed those thoughts aside as she headed for the family dojo. It was time for Juken training. Her heart sank when she saw the person standing beside her instructor. "Anna Niji-nisan." Niji glared. "You will spar with Niji today. Let us hope you have improved." "Itadakimasa." Naruto slurped happily away at his ramen. After the Hokage, Irika-sensei and Hinata, old man Tuchi, who was the owner and chef of the Ichiraku ramen stand, and his daughter Ayam were his favorite people in Konoha. They had always been kind to him, treating him just like any other customer. Most of the other food sellers refused to serve him. If they did, they went out of their way to make the experience as unpleasant as possible. The familiar atmosphere was relaxing. While he ate, Naruto imagined that Tuchi was like a gruff uncle and Ayam was like an older cousin to him. They always made time to chat with him and asked him how he was doing, even when they were busy. Speaking of which. "So Naruto, when are you going to introduce us to your new friend?" asked Tuchi as he worked. The knife in his hand flashed as he chopped green onions for garnish. "Eh? You wanted to meet Hinata-chan?" "Of course, we do," Silly! Ayam rolled her eyes and lightly bopped him on the head with a long wooden spoon. You've only been talking nonstop about her for the last 2 months. I feel like I know her already. We'd love to meet her. Her father nodded in agreement. Any friend of our best customer is always welcome here. Thanks. Naruto beamed. We usually hang out and train after class until she has to go home for dinner with her family. I think we can skip training on Monday and come straight here after class instead. We've been working really hard, so skipping every now and then won't hurt. That sounds wonderful. We'll be expecting you, so don't forget, admonished Ayam. I won't. Naruto lifted his bowl and quickly drank the broth. Goku Susumu. Naruto hopped off his stool, but Teuchi stopped him before he could leave. Wait, Naruto. Would you be interested in any candy today? Our supplier made a mistake with our order. Instead of delivering a case of spices, he delivered a case of Konoha Bakudan. But he won't take it back or exchange it for the spices we originally ordered. So we're offering it to our customers. Naruto's eyes lit up at the words Konoha Bakudan and he almost drooled. Konoha Bakudan, or Konobaku for short, were small round balls made with a crispy pastry shell and dark chocolate filling. They were a very popular sweet in Konoha. He had only eaten the treats a handful of times before. He didn't often have much money to splurge on sweets. And even when he did, none of the candy stores in the village would serve him. The Sandaime Hokage would sometimes give him a small bag on the rare occasions he visited. And once, he'd begged a few off of Chuji. Really? Naruto almost danced with excitement. You have Konobaku for me? You're the best, Ajisen. Later that night, after closing their restaurant, Ayam turned to her father. That was a very nice thing you did for him, father. There was no need to say who him was. There was no mistake with our supplier. You ordered a case of Konobaku on purpose. Maybe I did, Teuchi said gruffly. He's a good boy. He deserves to have a few treats every now and then. No, father, Ayam gave her father a long searching look. Naruto doesn't just deserve to have a few treats every now and then. He deserves a lot more than that. The way everyone treats him, it's despicable. Why do they do that? Ayam-chan, Teuchi sighed. I can't tell you. Just know that it's not his fault. It's nothing he did. This has something to do with the QB, doesn't it? Who told you that? He asked in alarm. No one told me, father. I swear. Sometimes you must think I'm still a baby. I'm not stupid. Then how? I remember when the QB attacked, she said softly. I was only 5, but I still remember that day, at least a little. There's a big secret about Naruto, isn't there? He was born on that day. And almost everyone hates him for it. I don't understand it, but I know it has to do with the QB. You're too smart for your own good, Ayam-chan, Teuchi said ruefully. I still can't tell you. And you mustn't say anything about this to anyone else. Do you understand? Her father was absolutely serious. She could tell. She couldn't remember if he'd ever been more serious. This was important. Ayam nodded. I won't, father. I promise. They worked quietly for a few more minutes. Then. Father? Yes, Ayam-chan? Let's order more treats for Naruto in the future. Teuchi smiled softly. I am so proud of you, my daughter. After putting in some target practice, Naruto wondered if he should just go home. It was a beautiful day, not too warm, not too cold. The air was crisp, and the sun was shining. The day was just perfect. Naruto decided against it. Instead, he made his way to the Konoha Public Park. He would enjoy the rest of the day at their bench. Well, it wasn't really theirs. It was a public park, after all. But since the bench was off the beaten path, not many people used it. Naruto and Hinata had used it as their spot for playing cat's cradle. The bag of Konobaku balls rattled in his hip pouch, and Naruto was sorely tempted to eat them right away. No. I'll wait. I want to share them with Hinata-chan. He never shared anything with a friend before. He had only watched enviously as other kids shared toys and snacks with each other, but never with him. As he neared his destination, Naruto was disappointed to see that someone was already there. He frowned. Whoever it was probably wouldn't want to share the bench with him. As he got closer, he could make out more details. It was a child, probably about his age, sitting curled with her arms around her knees. And that person was crying. In fact, Naruto thought that person was strangely familiar. He or she reminded him of Hinata. Then with a start, Naruto realized that it was Hinata who for once was not wearing her large beige jacket. Instead, she was wearing a black t-shirt and black training pants. Without the coat, she looked smaller and more vulnerable. And were those bruises on her arms? Naruto rushed forward in alarm. She was crying and she was hurt. Hinata-chan. What happened? Are you okay? Hinata had been thoroughly defeated by her cousin Niji. Her instructor watched impassively as the cousins sparred, if it could be called sparring. Hinata never stood a chance. Niji had the most potential of any Hyuga in generations. After losing painfully yet again, and getting dropped by a right hook to her temple that had gotten past her guard, Hinata lay dazed and panting on the tatami mats of the dojo. When it became obvious that Hinata could no longer continue, her instructor finally spoke. Flashback. It seems there has been no improvement. You failed to land even single hit on Niji. Your guard is so weak as to be non-existent. Next week, we shall attempt to improve it. Pain is an excellent motivator. Perhaps this shall encourage you to work harder. You are dismissed. He did not help her up. Hinata heard only one set of footsteps leaving the dojo. Surprised, she turned her head to find that Niji had remained. It will not matter whether or not you work harder. We are all bound to our fates. I was born to serve the Hyuga main branch. You were born weak, and you will never reach my level. It is futile to try. You should just give up right now. Then he left, as well. Alone at last, Hinata succumbed to tears. She rolled over and forced herself to stand up. It hurt to move. It hurt to breathe. She tried so hard. Why was she still so weak? Was Niji right? Should she give up and accept her failures? All of a sudden, the Hyuga estate felt suffocating. Within its walls, she was constantly criticized, never accepted. She did not want to be there. If only she were a bird, she would fly away and never come back. Flashback. Hinata did not know how she got to the park and to their bench. She did not remember leaving the Hyuga compound. In this place, where she held happy memories, she let herself cry. If only she could be more like Naruto. Almost as if the thought conjured him, he was suddenly there and full of concern. Hinata-chan. What happened? Are you okay? Naruto could have kicked himself. What a stupid thing to ask. She was obviously not okay. Hinata's head snapped up in surprise. She tried unsuccessfully to dry her tears and hide the evidence of her distress. Naruto could see that, in addition to the set of bruises on her arms, her lower lip was split and there was another bruise forming on her right cheek. Suddenly he was angry. Who had hurt her? Who had hurt his friend? Hinata-chan? Naruto softly repeated the question, what happened to you? Hinata looked away shamefully. She couldn't bear to look him in the eyes. It was nothing, Naruto-kun. JJ just SPSP sparring and TRTR training in Juken. You look awful. Hinata winced. Naruto spoke fiercely, sparring and training is what we do in class. Whatever it was that you just did was not sparring. Who hurt you, Hinata-chan? Niji-nissen. BB but it wasn't his FF fault. IGG got HH hurt because I am TT2 WW weak. IDD don't deserve to be BB a Hyuga. Why am I always SS so WW weak? Hinata burst into tears again. She had just confessed her weakness to Naruto. She hadn't wanted to tell him, but he deserved the truth. Surely, now that he knew how weak she truly was, he would no longer want to be her friend. The last 2 months had been wonderful. But she had known it couldn't last. Why would he want the weak, little girl that even her family rejected? She stiffened when she felt a pair of arms go around her. Naruto was hugging her. If she hadn't been in so much shock, she would have blushed. You are not weak. You are smart and strong. Whoever told you that is either blind or an idiot. He's probably both. BB but, Hinata protested, everyone in my FF family says SS so. I'm the FF failure and the WW weakest. The Hyuga DD don't and needs someone LL like me. ISHSH should GG give you up. Do they really say that to you? Naruto asked softly. With every word that came out of her mouth, Naruto felt the burning anger in his chest grow. He was furious. It was one thing to put him down. He'd been put down his entire life. It was another thing entirely to disparage Hinata. That was unforgivable. Hi, she whispered. Hinata fully expected him to let go in disgust. Instead, his arms tightened around her, and he gave her a little shake. Bullshit. Listen to me, Hinata-chan. You are smart. You understand Iruka-sensei's lectures right away, and sometimes you even explain them to me better than he does. You are strong. You beat Kiba and Chuji during last week's class spar. Your family and this Niji are just blind and stupid if they can't see that. Hinata looked at him in wonder. Even after all that, all the proof to the contrary, Naruto still believed in her. He still believed she was a worthy friend. But Naruto wasn't finished yet. You don't need to listen to what they say. People have told me that I'm a waste of space. Hinata gasped in horror. But that doesn't matter because someday, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to be Hokage. I don't give up. If I did, I would have died a long time ago. And someday, you'll be the strongest Hyuga that ever was. You're going to prove your stupid family wrong and make them eat their words. You are my best friend. And you will not give up. In another time and place, Hinata had no one to comfort her, to dry her tears, to encourage her. She had no one who would believe in her. And so, she faltered. The mind is a powerful, inexplicable thing. Because she believed she was weak, she became weak. It would take many years for her to overcome this block and reach her true potential. In this time and place, Hinata had Naruto, who honestly believed she was strong, and who did not know how to give up. Naruto believed in her. Naruto never quit. And if he said she was strong, maybe, just maybe, she was. And so, with his encouragement, Hinata would get up and try again. She had Naruto, who would always be there to pick her up if she fell. She had Naruto, who would always cheer the loudest for every small success that she achieved. She had Naruto, who had just called her his best friend. Hinata could hardly believe she could be the best at anything, yet, here she was, Naruto's best friend. Naruto's best friend was not a failure. She would not let him down. And so, the world changed. Thank you, Hinata sniffed. This time they were happy tears. When she could speak again, there was a new fire in her eyes. You're right, Naruto-kun. I'm not done fighting yet. And then next time, I'll hit Niji-san BB back. That Niji won't know what hit him. Naruto grinned, relieved to see that Hinata was feeling better. They sat side by side in comfortable silence, just enjoying each other's presence and the beautiful weather, until Naruto remembered his surprise. Oh, I almost forgot. This will definitely cheer you up, he grinned, revealing a new unopened bag of Konoha Bakudan. Konobaku. I was going to share these with you after school on Monday. But I think you could use some right now. What do you say? Sure. Hinata wasn't going to turn down free candy. What 7-year-old in his, or her, right mind would turn down delicious Konobaku candy? The two children happily ate their Konobaku. To Naruto, it was the best Konobaku he'd ever tasted, all because he was sharing it with his best friend. To Hinata, the candy tasted even better than all the gourmet candies imported from the best confectioners in the world. It was a little-known secret that most Hyuga had a sweet tooth. Hence, the Hyuga estate was well stocked with the best candies money could buy. All because she was sharing it with her best friend. Soon the bag of treats was nearly empty. Hinata and Naruto both reached for the last piece at the same time. Hinata jerked her hand back when she felt Naruto's hand brush against hers. She blushed lightly and then looked down in disappointment. There was only one piece left. Proper etiquette demanded that she leave the last piece for Naruto. It was his bag of candy, after all. So he should get the last piece. Would you like the last piece, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked considerately. No, thank you. UCC can have it, Naruto-kun. Naruto looked thoughtful. We should share. I know. Before Hinata could ask how he intended for them to share, Naruto picked up the last piece and took a bite. He bit off half the Konobaku ball. And before Hinata could stop him, Naruto popped the other half of the candy into her mouth. Did he just? Hinata couldn't even finish the thought in her head. Her eyes went impossibly wide. Her heart pounded so loudly she was surprised he didn't hear it. The light blush she wore, from their accidental touch just a few moments before, erupted into a flaming red bloom. That was delicious, wasn't it? Naruto asked. He turned to look at her, and caught sight of her red face. Hinata-chan? Are you okay? Your face is flushed. That Niji must have hurt you more than we thought. Let's take you to the doctor right away. We have to make sure it's nothing serious. Hinata couldn't answer him because she was doing her level best not to faint. She succeeded. Barely. That night, Hinata dreamt of chocolate-filled candies and indirect kisses. Fin. Hinata sighed as she slid gratefully into the ofuro of her own private bath. Most of the time, she did not care for the luxuries and amenities that her family's wealth afforded. But relaxing in the ofuro and letting the hot water soothe away her aches and troubles after a long day of training was simply divine. It was the one vice she didn't think she could live without. As was her custom, Hinata spent this time in deep contemplation. The last 3 years of her life had been hard, but with Naruto's help, she had persevered. The day after she and Naruto had shared their first bag of konobaku, she still blushed thinking about it. Naruto had dragged off her to see Irika-sensei in his home. Flashback. It was Sunday. Hinata had agreed to meet Naruto after her training in the Hyuga arts was over for the day. But what were they doing here? She looked around at the residential neighborhood where Naruto had taken them. The single homes and apartment buildings were well kept. The flower beds were well tended, the fences were brightly painted, and the streets were clean and in good repair. Several buildings down, she could see a few civilian children were playing ball. While not as upscale as the neighborhood where the old clans resided, it was not shabby either. Ano Naruto-kun. She was tugging on his sleeve to get his attention. What are we doing here? We're here to see Irika-sensei, he said, as if that explained everything. But Hinata was only more bewildered. Naruto walked up to a modest duplex and knocked confidently on the door. Irika-sensei. Irika-sensei. Are you home? We need help. Irika had been enjoying a quiet Sunday afternoon with iced tea and a good book when the knocking started. He sighed at the interruption. At this rate, he was never going to finish that book. He opened the door to find his favorite student on the doorstep with Hinata in tow. Hello Naruto, Hinata. What can I do for you? Ever since Irika realized the villagers were actively abusing and mistreating Naruto, he thought long and hard about what actions he could take, if any. In the end, he had decided against informing the Hokage, who probably knew already. Not much got past the Sandaime. He was the professor for a reason. Instead, Irika gave Naruto the next best thing, an open invitation to visit him at any time, night or day, and for any reason. Irika figured correctly that his support and acknowledgement would mean more to Naruto than punishing a few villagers ever could. Punishing a few villagers would not change anything. It would not stop them, or others, from mistreating him again. But knowing that there was Irika, someone, besides the Sandaime who was often busy, who would help him, advise him, and care for him if he were ever in trouble, that meant the world to Naruto. However, Irika had not expected to see Naruto again so soon. He had been doing much better in class. So what was the problem? You have to help us, Irika-sensei. Hinata's family is awful. They say horrible things about her that are just not true. And several minutes later, after much loud, indignant ranting from Naruto and much blushing from Hinata, who was absolutely mortified, what would her father say if he ever found out she had exposed their family affairs to a non-Hyuga? What would he do to her? Irika finally got the gist of it. Naruto was mad. The Hyuga thought Hinata was weak. Naruto was mad. The Hyuga were beating her and calling it sparring. And hey, did you know? Naruto was mad. Naruto wanted to help. Hinata needed real training. Then she was going to show them exactly which Hyuga was weak, because it certainly wasn't Hinata. Naruto needed extra training, too, because he was going to help her, and he was going to be the future Hokage. Naruto would be Hinata's real sparring partner, and not some punk who just liked to bully his younger cousin. Irika leaned back in his seat and thought carefully for a few moments. He was a bit surprised at how fiercely Naruto had defended Hinata. Unfortunately, he was not at all surprised at the Hyuga training methods. He had suspected as much. Taijutsu was never one of my strengths. But there is someone I could introduce you to. Not only is Mato Guy the foremost taijutsu master in Konoha, but he's also worked extensively with other Hyuga in the past. He's very passionate about his field of expertise. I know he'd be more than happy to help you. Naruto looked like Christmas had come early. Flashback. Irika was as good as his word. He had introduced them to one Mato Guy, the self-proclaimed green beast of Konoha, and one of the best taijutsu masters in all of Fire Country. Flashback. I can see clearly that these two are in the springtime of their youth. Yash! I will fan the flames of their youth, and they will be the best taijutsu fighters of their generation, or I shall run 5,000 laps around Konoha. Flashback. Passionate was not the word she would have chosen to describe him. Insane was more like it. But she and Naruto soon discovered that as quirky as Guy-sensei could be, he was also one of the best taijutsu instructors that ever existed. Hinata and Naruto joined Guy-sensei's workouts at 5 a.m. every morning. They would spend at least 2 hours training with him before going to class. The first hour was usually dedicated to physical conditioning, geared towards increasing their stamina, including laps, push-ups, sit-ups, and even more laps. During the second hour, Guy-sensei helped them with their taijutsu. He taught Naruto the basics of Goken. Though Guy-sensei was not a Hyuga, he had worked, and sparred, with many Hyuga in the past. With his passion for anything related to taijutsu, he had learned as much about Juken as it was possible for a non-Hyuga to learn, which was quite a substantial amount. Hinata was certain that if the Hyuga elders on the clan council were to discover exactly how much Gai-sensei knew of their fighting art, well, Furious wouldn't even begin to cover it. In just the first month, Gai-sensei had been able to teach Hinata more about Juken than she had learned in an entire year from her weekend Juken instructors. And much to Hinata's great relief, his teaching methods were significantly less painful. Soon, Rock Lee, a third-year academy student, joined them in their morning routine. Lee had malformed chakra coils, and could not mold chakra for jutsu. But he was still determined to become a ninja. It was his dream. In many ways, his refusal to give up on his dream reminded Hinata of Naruto. He took to Goken like a fish to water. Gai-sensei was his idol. Lee and Naruto quickly became good friends and a friendly rivalry sprang up between them. Both boys were determined to outdo each other, whether it was who could run the most laps or do the most push-ups or eat the most ramen in one sitting. Naruto won that last one. If they could compete over it, they would. Hinata found it impossible to keep up with the boys, stamina freaks that they were, in their morning workouts. Before Hinata could despair, Gai-sensei, who was much more intuitive than most people gave him credit for, pulled her aside and told her not to compare herself to the boys. Flashback. "You are Hinata," Gai-sensei said seriously. "Hi, Gai-sensei." Hinata wondered if he was going to give her another speech about fanning the flames of youth. "No. I do not think you understand. You are Hinata. You are not Naruto. And you are not Lee. You should not compare yourself to either of them, just as they should not compare themselves to you. We each have our strengths and weaknesses, which is why most ninja are placed on teams, so that their teammates will support them, just as they support their teammates. No one is without weaknesses. Naruto and Lee will always have more stamina than you. They will always be physically stronger, as well. This is fact." Hinata shrank into herself, ashamed. Was her new teacher telling her she was weak? But she tried so hard. Was it not enough? Before she could despair further, Gai-sensei continued. "But and listen to me carefully, Hinata Naruto will also never have your chakra control and Lee will never have your flexibility. You are all unique. If you must compare yourself to someone, as a gauge of your progress, then you should compare yourself to you." "I don't understand, Gai-sensei," Hinata confessed. "You should compare yourself to the Hinata of yesterday. If you can run one more step than you ran yesterday, if your chakra control is just a little bit better than it was yesterday, if you can fight harder and faster than you fought yesterday, if you can dodge today what you could not dodge yesterday, and block what you could not block yesterday, then the Hinata you are today is a better, stronger person than the Hinata you were. If you do this, then I am proud to call you my precious student." "Gai-sensei is proud of me?" Hinata was almost overwhelmed. The last person to be proud of her had been her mother. But it had been so long since her passing that the memory was fuzzy and indistinct. Could she do all that? Could she be better than she was yesterday? Could she win against the person she was yesterday? Yes. "Hi, Gai-sensei." In true Mato Gai fashion, Gai smiled, showing gleaming white teeth, and gave her a thumbs up. Flashback. Hinata took Gai's words to heart, and applied the principle to her Juken training. She set small goals at every training session, including her weekend training sessions with the Hyuga. She stopped comparing herself to her cousin Niji because she was Hinata, not Niji. She stopped comparing herself to her other sparring opponents too. And most importantly, she stopped losing heart whenever she lost a match because it didn't matter if she lost, as long as she didn't lose to herself. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, she improved. Flashback. "I will not stop until I hit Niji at least once." Hinata repeated the mantra as she forced herself to get up yet again. Her body was begging her to quit. It was too tired, too spent. It wanted to collapse and recover. "But I will not stop until I hit Niji at least once." And then she did. It was just a glancing blow to his shoulder, and more luck than anything else. It was not even a vital hit. But that didn't matter. She did it. "Perhaps you have been paying attention, after all," her instructor told her, as she lay panting on the floor of the dojo. "That is all for today. I wonder whether you can repeat this feat or not." Niji waited until he was gone. Although Hinata could not see her cousin's expression from her position on the floor, she could feel his fury. His voice could have frozen magma. "Lady Luck will not favor you a second time. You are still the weakest of the Hyuga. It has been determined by fate. You will not succeed again." Flashback. Niji was wrong. Hinata did succeed again, and many more times since that day. "I will not stop until I can hit Niji twice. I will not stop until I can hit Niji 3 times. I will not stop until I can avoid being hit for 5 minutes. I will not stop until I can avoid being hit for 10 minutes. I will not stop until I can avoid being hit for 20 minutes. I will not stop until I can perform Hakurokujuyenshu, 8 divination signs, 64 palms of the hand, 3 seconds faster than before. 5 seconds faster. 7 seconds faster. Hinata sighed ruefully. Niji could still wipe the floor with her. But each time, she made it harder and harder for him to do it. She refused to go down without a fight. A small vindictive part of her danced with glee each time she was forced to spar with him because she intended to make each victory hurt. After 3 years of Gai-sensei's regimen, she actually used a light version of his regimen. Naruto and Lee used the full version. She had a lot more stamina than the normal Kunoichi. Niji had to work to defeat her now. In a few more years, at the rate she was improving, his victories would no longer be so certain. Today was a good day. Today, not only had she won against the Hinata of yesterday, she had also won against her Hyuga sparring opponent. First time ever. She had won against another Hyuga. Hyuga Katsu was from the Hyuga branch house, and unlike Niji, he did not appear to bear her any ill will. Unlike Niji, he was not a prodigy. He was considered to be of average skill in Juken for his age. Katsu was also 2 years her senior. She had managed to beat a Hyuga. Her instructor had even unbent enough to give her backhanded praise, though his expression remained impassive. Flashback. You have made some progress. Continue as you have, and you may yet become semi-proficient in Juken. Perhaps when you become clan head, you will not horribly embarrass the Hyuga, after all. Flashback. Hinata realized with a start that the water was cold. She had been so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice how late it had become. She stepped out of the ofuro and wrapped a fluffy robe around herself. It was time for bed. She needed to be up before 5 a.m. for her morning training. She couldn't wait to tell Naruto and Gai-sensei all about her first victory against Hyuga Katsu. They would be so proud. The next morning, Gai-sensei, Lee, and Naruto reacted exactly as she'd expected. Gai-sensei cried happy tears for her and proclaimed her to be a beautiful blossom in the springtime of youth. Lee pumped his fist in the air and told that he never doubted that she could do it. Naruto had laughed and declared that they would celebrate by going to Ichiraku's. Then he picked her up and swung her around until she was dizzy. Hinata soaked up the approval and praised like a sponge. Celebrating at Ichiraku's, that sounded like a date. Even though they had eaten there many times before, and even though Hinata knew Naruto didn't mean it that way, she couldn't stop herself from imagining that it was a date. It was one of the happiest moments of her life. For once in her life, Hinata felt like she could conquer mountains. For a moment, she absolutely believed that one day, she would achieve her dreams, until cold, harsh reality brought her daydreams crashing down. On the way to the academy, Naruto made a confession that wounded her heart. "Hey, Hinata-chan?" Naruto sounded inexplicably hesitant. "I wanted to ask you for your opinion on something." "What is it, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked curiously. "I was wondering what you thought of Sakura-chan. I mean, you're a girl, right? So I don't know, what do you think of her?" "Sakura-chan?" Oh no, dread tore away the happiness she had felt just moments earlier. And was Naruto-kun blushing? He was. A light pink suffused his whiskered cheeks. She needed to know. Did he like Sakura? Why do you want to know? Hinata congratulated herself for not stuttering. Ah. Because Naruto blushed harder, and Hinata's heart sank. He put his hands behind his head and looked away. Well, because I think Sakura-chan's kind of cute, and she's pretty smart, too. Do you think she'd go on a date with me, if I asked? Naruto-kun had a crush on Sakura. Suddenly, Hinata couldn't look at him. She swallowed the lump in her throat and blinked back tears. She didn't speak until she was sufficiently composed, and she was sure her voice wouldn't betray her. Naruto, who was still self-conscious about his confession, didn't notice her hesitation or her distress. I don't know, Naruto-kun. Sakura and I are not close. She looks like a nice girl. Oh. Hinata cringed at how despondent he sounded. She had to do something. She had to say something. No matter how difficult it was or how miserable it made her. But I think that Naruto-kun should follow his heart. If you truly like Sakura, and if Sakura-chan is what makes you happy, then you should do your best and see what comes of it. You are Uzumaki Naruto. And you always do your best, right? Naruto visibly brightened, making Hinata feel simultaneously better and worse. Her emotions were a giant jumbled mess, and she still wanted to cry. You're right, Hinata-chan. I was feeling a bit depressed. But I feel better now. Naruto grinned. Do you mind if I go on ahead? I want to see if I can find Sakura-chan before class starts. Yes. I mind very much. Please, I don't want you to go. Of course not, Naruto-kun, she murmured instead. Good luck. Sakura is a lucky girl. Thanks, Hinata-chan. Hinata watched him dash off. Never in her life had she wanted to be someone else so badly. Why couldn't Naruto-kun like her instead? She recalled her father's words from long ago. They haunted her in her darkest moments. A defect, that's all she was. She was lying to herself if she tried to believe any differently. Sakura was prettier and smarter. If she made Naruto happy, then Hinata could accept that eventually. She had to accept it. She would accept it. She would. She could accept that Naruto only wanted to be her friend, and nothing more. Liar. It was late afternoon. As promised, Naruto and Hinata were on their way to Ichiraku's for a celebratory bowl of ramen. The route they usually took to get to Ichiraku's from the Ninja Academy took them by a long stretch of road lined on one side by a tall wooden fence that was perhaps 100 yards long. When he was 8, Naruto had declared that fence perfect for balance training and proceeded to walk along on top of the fence. Fence walking was more difficult than it appeared. The depth of the fence was perhaps half an inch, at most. Naruto learned the hard way, taking many falls in the process, to keep his center of gravity centered, to look straight ahead and not at his feet, because as counterintuitive as that sounded, looking at his feet was the fastest way to lose his balance, and to place one foot directly in front of the other. Even after he mastered the exercise, it greatly improved his posture and balance. Naruto made it a habit to walk on top of the fence on their way to Ichiraku's. He did it at every opportunity simply because it was fun. When they reached that stretch of road, Naruto automatically hopped on the fence and continued along his merry way. Hinata, wisely, stayed on the ground and walked beside him. What a bitch! Naruto grumbled. I can't believe I wanted to ask her out. Why didn't you stop me? Hinata knew that was a rhetorical question. So she offered her best friend a sympathetic look and listened quietly. Naruto had been venting his displeasure since leaving the academy. Hinata had deliberately stayed away from class as long as she could. She waited until the last possible moment to arrive. She couldn't bear to watch Naruto ask another girl out. So she had missed the drama. Apparently, Sakura had, in no uncertain terms, turned him down, violently. She seemed incensed that Naruto had even thought to ask her out because she, Sakura, loved Sasuke and wasn't about to give any consideration to any other guy, especially not a dead last loser and a failure like Naruto. Thank goodness Sakura said no. Hinata immediately berated herself for her traitorous thought. All she could feel was profound relief that Sakura had turned Naruto down, though Hinata wished she'd done it more gently. I am being too selfish, but thank goodness. I mean, yes, she's kind of cute. And yes, she's pretty smart. But she's got the personality of a slug. And can you believe she called me a dead last loser? And a failure? Naruto continued to rant. I haven't been dead last in 3 years. 3? What rock has that slug been hiding under? Hinata made appropriate humming noises. She was relieved to see that Naruto was already over his crush. He did not appear hurt, just insulted. Naruto barely noticed. I don't get it. It's not like Sasuke is all that cool. Why do all the girls like him anyways? He's always so cold towards them. He's such a jerk. Why do they keep going back for more? Do they want to suffer? I know, Naruto-kun. Those girls don't really like Sasuke because they don't really know him. He keeps all of them away. The person those girls like is the person they think Sasuke is. He is the last of the Uchiha, a rich and noble clan. To them, Sasuke is like a prince. They are attracted to the idea of becoming his princess. That's stupid, Naruto snorted. Those girls are idiots, crushing on that stupid jerk. At least you don't have a crush on some stupid boy. Right, Hinata-chan? Hinata couldn't help herself. She went ghost white, then almost instantly, went beet red. When she didn't answer right away, Naruto turned to look at her. You don't. Right? He asked again. Is Hinata blushing? She is. Why would she unless the gears started turning and cranking in his head until he arrived at the correct conclusion, for once? His mouth dropped open in shock. Oh. My. God. You do. Hinata has a crush. The revelation was so staggering that Naruto did exactly that. He promptly forgot everything. He forgot he was precariously balanced at the top of a 6-foot-high fence. He forgot how to fall safely. He forgot every last bit of his training and went staggering right off the fence. Naruto was intimately, and painfully, reacquainted with the ground. Hinata's hands flew to her mouth in horror. Naruto-kun! Ow, that hurt, Naruto moaned as he tried to sit up. Hinata rushed forward to help him up and took inventory of his injuries. Naruto's fall had been quite impressive. He had scrapes on both knees, both hands, and a shallow cut on his forehead. Hinata fumbled for the first aid kit in her pack. They were studying basic first aid at the academy this year. All students were required to carry a kit with them for class. Hinata was glad she had it with her as she knelt beside him. Naruto watched her clean and bandage his injuries without a word. "Who is it?" Hinata froze. Of course, he would ask. She should have expected it. What was she going to say? She couldn't tell Naruto that it was him that she had a crush on. She just couldn't. Not after he told her about his now ex-crush on Sakura. He obviously didn't feel the same way about her. She didn't want to lose his friendship or make things awkward between them because she wanted more, so much more. "What do you mean?" Hinata stalled desperately. She could feel the heat crawling up her cheeks. "Who's the stupid boy that you like?" Naruto frowned at her evasiveness. "He's not stupid." Naruto was taken aback at her vehemence. "Why didn't you tell me you liked someone?" he asked quietly. "I didn't want him to find out," Hinata shook her head. "I still don't. He doesn't like me back that way. I would just embarrass myself if he found out." "I get why you didn't tell him. But why didn't you tell me, at least? Aren't we best friends? Don't you trust me? I wouldn't have told anyone, not even the guy you like." Hinata cringed at the hurt expression on his face. She hurried to reassure him. "It's not like that at all. We are. I do. It's just this is a very private thing for me. I couldn't tell you," she finished lamely. "Will you tell me who it is now?" "No." "Why not?" "No." "It's not Sasuke, is it?" Naruto looked horrified. "No." "Well, that's a relief. You can do much better than Sasuke, Hinata-chan. Is it Lee? He's a pretty good guy." "No." Hinata loved Naruto's persistence in the face of overwhelming odds. It was one of the traits she loved best about him. But just this once, she wished he wasn't so determined. "Hey, if you tell me who it is, I can help you get together with him," Naruto coaxed, but this only made Hinata more upset. "And then no. Stop it. And then Naruto-kun. I'm not going to tell you who it is." Naruto was immediately contrite. In the 3 years since they had become friends, Hinata had gradually overcome her stutter. Now, the only time she stuttered was when she was under extreme emotional distress. Naruto noticed belatedly that she was on the verge of tears. "I'm an idiot." Satisfying his curiosity was not worth the price of her tears. "I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. I didn't mean to upset you. I'll stop. I promise," he said guiltily. Thank you, Naruto-kun. But if this guy ever hurts you or makes you cry, I'll kick his ass. Naruto-kun. Okay. Naruto grinned unrepentantly. "I won't kick his ass. How about I just break a few bones?" Naruto-kun. Hinata didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was threatening himself on her behalf. He didn't love her the way that she loved him, but he did love her, as a precious, best friend. It was enough for now. In the end, she settled for smiling weakly. Hinata finished applying the last bandage. She was done, except for one thing. One thing that she'd always wanted to do for Naruto, except she'd never dared. Was she braver today than she was yesterday? Was she more confident today than she was yesterday? Could she do this one thing today that she had been afraid to do yesterday? Yes. Thanks, Hinata-chan. Naruto examined the bandages he now sported. You did a great job fixing me up. Some of the cuts still sting a little though. Wait, Naruto-kun. There's one more thing I want to do. Hinata leaned forward and gently kissed the bandages over his knees. She cupped his hands in hers and gently kissed the bandages over his palms. Finally, she moved up to his forehead and kissed the bandage over his temple. There, Hinata smiled shyly at Naruto. I kissed it better. Did it work? It did. Naruto beamed. That night, Naruto lay awake wondering about the mysterious boy Hinata liked. I was just joking around earlier. If this guy ever makes Hinata-chan cry, I'm not going to kick his ass or break his bones. I'm going to fucking kill him after I make sure he suffered immensely. Naruto yawned sleepily. Going to have to hide the body though, don't want Hinata-chan finding out and getting upset for no reason. And with that final thought, Naruto drifted into dreamless slumber. Fin. Naruto knew something was wrong with him the moment he woke up. His head was pounding. His throat was scratchy. His body ached even worse than that first morning after joining Gai-sensei's insane workout. His skin felt like it was on fire. Worst of all was the vertigo and nausea. The moment he sat up, he felt the world spinning, and his stomach violently objected to being upright. He barely made it to the toilet in time, almost falling twice on the way. By the time he was done retching, he wasn't on fire anymore. He was absolutely freezing. Ugh, I haven't been this sick since I can't remember. Hurts to think. Naruto shivered and stumbled over to his medicine cabinet, looking for something, anything, that he could take to relieve his discomforts. It was empty. If he'd had the energy, Naruto would have cursed. Idiot. Forgot to restock my supplies after the last time I was sick. I'll need to pick up more medicine later. It took all the energy he had left to, literally, crawl back to his bed. By the time he got there, he simply collapsed on top. He didn't bother pulling the covers over himself. That would have taken too much effort. He tilted his head to glance at the clock beside his bed, 4:50 a.m. Naruto moaned. The last thing he wanted to do right now was train. He just wanted to sleep. Dying sounded pretty good, too, and less painful than what he was currently feeling. No. I need to get up, need to meet Hinata-chan and leave for training soon. Gai-sensei was away on a mission, but 3 of them would faithfully practice what they knew without him until he came back. I just need a little rest first. Despite his intentions, Naruto passed out exactly 2 seconds later. Hinata was worried. Naruto had not shown up for training this morning. Training to become stronger was his passion. He would never skip out on a training session without a very good reason. He never missed it. After waiting for 15 minutes, she and Lee had started training on their own, but her heart and mind had been elsewhere. She lost count of her repetitions while working out. She nearly tripped half a dozen times while running laps because she kept looking behind her, hoping for Naruto to appear. And she was so distracted that she couldn't keep her focus on sparring with Lee. He landed 3 fatal strikes within the first 5 minutes. Hinata cringed at her appalling performance. She hadn't lost that badly to Lee in months. Lee seemed to understand, however, and suggested that they stop early. Hinata nodded gratefully and dashed off to the academy. Surely, Naruto wouldn't miss class too. But he did. By lunchtime, Hinata was a mess. She had been unable to concentrate, continually glancing up at the clock and willing its hands to move faster. Class had never seemed to crawl by so slowly. She hung back as the rest of her classmates headed merrily off to lunch. Irika-sensei. Do you know where Naruto-kun is? He wasn't in class. And he didn't show up for training this morning either. Don't worry, Hinata. Irika gave her a reassuring smile. He was glad that someone other than himself worried about the blonde too. He's probably just a little sick and decided to stay home and recover. Naruto's always been quick to recuperate. I'm sure he'll be back in class by Monday. Irika's attempt to reassure Hinata was completely wasted. But Irika-sensei, Naruto-kun lives alone, Hinata said anxiously. If Naruto-kun is sick, who will take care of him? Why don't we visit him after class? Irika suggested. I'm sure it's nothing serious. But we can check up on him and bring him his class assignments, so he doesn't fall behind. Hinata smiled gratefully at her teacher. Even after 3 years of friendship, Hinata had never invited Naruto into her home. She did not want to flaunt her family's wealth in his face. And she was afraid. What would her father do if he found out about her friendship with Naruto? Instinctively, she knew he would not be pleased. He would most likely forbid her from ever seeing Naruto again. Naruto was nothing like the Hyuga. He had no clan, no money, no political influence, and most of the village seemed to hate him on sight. He was not someone the Hyuga heiress should be seen with. That she had successfully kept her father in the dark about her friendship with Naruto for years, it should have been an impossible feat except for the fact that her father took absolutely no interest in her life, unless it was to criticize her for failing to live up to his standards. He never asked, and Hinata was not about to volunteer. Likewise, Naruto had never invited Hinata into his home either. His shabby apartment was tiny, barely big enough for one person, let alone visitors. And he was afraid. He knew that she knew he was an orphan with little money. But knowing and seeing were 2 different things. His small apartment was old and run down, though he tried, unsuccessfully, to keep it clean and neat. If she saw how he lived, would she pity him? Would her feelings for him change? He knew Hinata. And deep down, he knew that she would never pity him, would never stop being his friend over something so material. But years of neglect and verbal abuse left him overprotective of his friendships, and he was unwilling to take the risk, no matter how negligible. Hence, by unspoken mutual agreement, They always spent their time together in public places, at the academy, at the training grounds, at Ichiraku's, at their park bench, or even sometimes, at Irika's apartment. Hinata looked down at the slip of paper in her hand. Was this the correct address? She wished Irika-sensei were with her, but he had been called away for an emergency staff meeting that would last for several hours. Irika had apologized and quickly penned Naruto's address for her before he had to leave. The building was old and dilapidated. The paint was peeling and faded, though sections of newer paint covered the walls at uneven intervals. Hinata suspected that someone had attempted to conceal graffiti with fresh paint. She climbed a set of rickety steps to the second landing and found the correct door with no trouble. As she raised her hand to knock, she hesitated. Suddenly, she was very nervous. She was standing right outside Naruto's home. What if he told her to leave? She was there uninvited, intruding on his privacy. Would he be angry? But what if Naruto was truly sick? She would never forgive herself if she didn't help him. And she needed to know that he was okay. She was so worried about him. She wouldn't run away. Naruto had woken several times during the day, but opted to stay in bed. He needed to get food and medicine. He needed to eat to replenish his energy. But he lacked the will to follow through. Just thinking about food, even ramen, was enough to make him nauseous. Earlier, he tried drinking a little water. Although the cool liquid soothed his throat, it made his stomach do somersaults. And he was so tired. He briefly wondered how long it would take for Irika-sensei to come check on him. Irika-sensei was the only person he could think of who knew where he lived and who would notice his absence and want to check up on him. Neither Hinata nor Lee knew where he lived. Gai-sensei was still away on a mission. And while he knew the Sandaime cared, he was the Hokage and much too busy to see Naruto on a daily basis. Thinking about the very short list of people who cared about him only depressed him further. He slept fitfully. The illness prevented him from resting comfortably, until he was roused by a knock on the door. Please, let that be Irika-sensei. I could really use his help right about now. Naruto stumbled to the door. It wasn't Irika-sensei, but it was another welcome face. Hinata-chan? What are you doing here? Naruto blinked in confusion. Naruto-kun. Hinata was alarmed by Naruto's appearance. He looked terrible. His face was pale, his eyes were too bright, and his voice sounded rough as sandpaper. Even his normally spiky hair hung dull and limp. He was using the door for support. Hinata kicked off her shoes and hurried to help him back into bed. I was worried about you, Naruto-kun. You didn't show up for training or class. Sorry about that, Hinata-chan. Don't worry about it. Hinata put her hand on his forehead and gasped. He was burning up. You have a high fever. Did you take anything for it? No. I ran out of medicine and forgot to get more. I'll go get some for you then, Naruto-kun. I'm sorry for being such a bother. You're not a bother at all. Just rest, okay? I'll take care of you. Thank you, Naruto murmured. Her words touched him deeply. No one had ever said that to him before. Not even Irika or the Sandaime. Most people took great delight in telling him the opposite or worse, and he had learned to take care of himself at an early age because no one else wanted to do it. As always, her presence alone was enough to dispel his earlier depression. He hadn't taken any medicine, but he was already feeling much, much better. Content and more comfortable than he'd been all day, Naruto fell fast asleep. As soon as he was sleeping, Hinata glanced over his apartment. It was tiny. The kitchen, dining, and sleeping areas were essentially one room. A small kitchenette took up one corner of the apartment. Naruto's bed took another. There was a small dining table and one chair in the center between the kitchen and the bed. Besides the front door to the apartment, Hinata saw 3 other doors, 2 open to the toilet and the bath. The last door led to a rectangular, windowless room only just big enough not to be called a closet. It was filled with scrolls, books, kunai and shuriken, all strewn haphazardly about. Some of those kunai and shuriken were even sticking out of the walls, having missed their targets. Naruto must use this room for training, Hinata mused. She checked his apartment for food. Other than some cereal, a half-empty carton of expired milk in the refrigerator, and a large box full of instant ramen cups by the front door, Hinata could find nothing else. Although she was exasperated by Naruto's lack of anything resembling real food, she had to grin at the giant box of instant ramen cups. She would pick up some groceries along with his medicine. Hinata found Naruto's keys on the table and pocketed them, so that she wouldn't disturb him when she returned. Then she hurried out to do some quick shopping. She had seen a small grocery store nearby on the way to his apartment. Naruto was dreaming. He knew he was dreaming, but didn't seem to have enough energy to wake up or to control the direction of his dream. Dream. Naruto was 4 again and back in the orphanage. When he had been 4, he had gotten very, very sick. But the matron at the orphanage, a stern lady with prematurely graying hair, had refused to believe him. Naruto had never liked any of his caretakers at the orphanage. They never beat him because they feared the Sandame's wrath, but there were 100 other little things they could, and would, do to make his life miserable. Matron had insisted he was faking illness to attract extra attention. As punishment, she had locked him in his room. 4-year-old Naruto climbed into bed. He had the coldest, draftiest room at the orphanage, and the thin blanket he was provided with did nothing to keep the chill away. He shivered. Naruto knew how this story ended. The Sandame would pay him a surprise visit 2 days later. He would find Naruto still terribly ill and much too thin for his age. Naruto had been unable to keep any food down during his illness. The Sandame would send for his own doctor to heal Naruto. But that was still days away. To Naruto's surprise, the dream changed. It was not as he remembered. An angel with dark hair and a kind voice came to him. He couldn't make out her face. It remained fuzzy and indistinct no matter how hard he focused. But he knew instinctively that she was beautiful. All angels were beautiful. "What are you doing here?" he asked her. "I'm here to take care of you, Naruto-kun." Naruto thought her voice was beautiful, too. "Why?" "You're my friend." "Really?" Naruto wanted to be happy. An angel wanted to be his friend. But won't you get in trouble?" he asked uncertainly. "Why would I get in trouble?" "I'm the demon child," he told her, in case she didn't know. "I don't think I'm allowed to have my very own angel." The angel didn't answer his question. Instead, "Here. Take this, Naruto-kun. It will make you feel better." Naruto obediently took his medicine. He trusted the angel. And he wanted to feel better. He was tired of being sick. A few moments later, he was sleepier than ever. He didn't want to sleep. He wanted to talk to the angel. "Go to sleep, Naruto-kun. I'll stay with you." The beautiful voice soothed him. Dream. When Hinata returned to the apartment, she found Naruto shivering in bed. He had kicked the covers off. She prepared a dose of the multi-symptom medicine for him. It would reduce his fever, alleviate his sore throat, and hopefully hasten his recovery. "Naruto-kun, you need to wake up. I have some medicine for you." Hinata shook his shoulder. Naruto opened his eyes, but he didn't seem to be fully aware. He seemed confused to see her and asked why she was there. He was obviously still dreaming or delirious. Demon child? His very own angel? Was Naruto talking about her? Hinata blushed. If he had called her that while he was lucid, Hinata would most certainly have fainted. At least, he woke long enough to take his medicine without complaint. Hinata tucked the covers around him. "Go to sleep, Naruto-kun. I'll stay with you." Hinata pulled the chair from the dining table over to his bed. She sat with him until he was asleep again. Then she got to work. Hinata started boiling water for a simple vegetable broth. Next she rinsed the rice with water from the tap and then added some water and the rice to the rice cooker. She looked back at Naruto occasionally as she cooked. He didn't even stir. It didn't take her long to finish preparing a simple meal that was bland enough not to upset his sensitive stomach and far more nutritious than instant ramen. Hinata hoped Naruto enjoyed it. Then she tidied his apartment. She picked up his clothes that were on the floor and placed them in a basket by the front door, so that he could easily take them to the laundromat later. She collected all the empty ramen cups strewn about his apartment, and tossed them out. She also threw out the expired milk, replacing it with a fresh carton, then took out the trash. As she swept the floor, Hinata hummed a happy melody. She felt like a wife. She blushed furiously at the stray thought and glanced over at Naruto. He was still sleeping. She sighed in relief. While she was unhappy that Naruto was sick, she was happy to do these little things for him. Naruto was always so strong. He always made time to help her, to encourage her, and to listen to her problems. He did so much for her. Without him, she would have remained that weak, stuttering little girl that no one respected. She was stronger now. Even her esteemed clan with its impossible expectations was starting to notice. And it was all thanks to Naruto. Hinata felt as if she would never be able to do enough for him. Sometimes she helped him with class work that he didn't understand. Sometimes she helped him with his chakra control. Sometimes she even helped him perfect a new stance or move for Goken that he learned from Gai-sensei. But Hinata dismissed those things as inconsequential. Naruto was strong and smart. He would have done all those things, even without her help. "I need Naruto-kun so much more than he will ever need me. I don't want him to be sick, but this time Naruto-kun needs me. It's my turn to be there for him. It feels nice to be needed." Naruto's apartment was so tiny that Hinata soon finished cleaning. All the cooking and cleaning had taken less than an hour. With nothing else to do, Hinata sat beside his bed and watched him sleep. While he was sleeping, she could stare at him as long as she liked. To Hinata, Naruto was very good looking, and the whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks were so cute. She would never tire of looking at him. In sleep, Naruto looked vulnerable. The boundless energy and determination he possessed were not evident. Instead, he looked serene and at peace. She reached out and placed a hand on his forehead. The medicine was taking effect. Already, his skin felt cooler to the touch and he was less pale. Color was returning to his face. Her hand lingered, and Hinata was overcome by temptation. She ran her fingers through his spiky blonde locks. They were so soft. Naruto stirred a little but did not wake. She reluctantly pulled her fingers back. She scolded herself. Bad Hinata. Don't molest Naruto in his sleep. It was getting late. As much as she wanted to stay with Naruto until he was fully recovered, she needed to go. If she stayed out any later, her father would notice and question her absence. You're asleep, so you can't hear me. But I still want you to know I'll always be here for you, Naruto-kun. I'll take care of you whenever you need me. I promise, Hinata said solemnly. Then she smiled softly, and I don't go back on my word. You taught me that, Naruto-kun. Thank you? There was more she wanted to say. But even with Naruto asleep, she couldn't bring herself to confess aloud. She leaned forward and placed a tender kiss on his cheek. I love you, Naruto-kun. She let herself linger and savored the sensation of just being near Naruto. Get well soon. Okay? I'll be back tomorrow, she told him. Then she left, making sure that the door locked behind her on her way out. The next time Naruto woke up, he felt 100 times better. He was still a little tired, but his head didn't hurt, his throat wasn't scratchy, he wasn't too hot or too cold, and he was absolutely ravenous. Naruto almost whined piteously as his stomach painfully demanded sustenance immediately. Not later, not in the 3 minutes it would take to make instant ramen, but right now. Shut up, stupid stomach. I don't have anything for us to eat right now. Wait, is that? Yes. There was food on the table. Naruto practically tripped over his own feet in his haste to get at the food. It was still warm. Plain broth, steamed fish lightly seasoned with spices, and perfectly fluffy white rice had never tasted so good. Only after he had inhaled the entire delicious meal did he wonder where it came from. With his stomach satisfied, Naruto finally noticed the current state of his apartment. It was clean. He did a double take and pinched himself. Ouch. So if he wasn't dreaming, then what happened? He'd been so sick and out of it that he couldn't remember much. The only thing he did remember was dreaming about a beautiful angel who came to take care of him. Naruto frowned. That didn't explain the food or the clean apartment, though. He looked around for more clues and found a note with very familiar handwriting stuck on the refrigerator. Naruto-kun. I'm sorry I came over uninvited. I was worried about you, so Iruka-sensei told me where you lived. I hope you enjoyed the meal I prepared. If you're still hungry, there are a few apples in the refrigerator. I'll stop by tomorrow to see how you're doing. Please get better soon. Hinata. Naruto smiled as he read the note. Hinata-chan, thank you. He still couldn't remember much, but now he could vaguely recall opening the door and finding Hinata-chan instead of Iruka-sensei. Suddenly, he could remember her words with crystal clarity. I'll take care of you. Happiness filled his heart. He had the best friend in the world. Hinata said a few other things, too. Naruto thought. A few more details were coming back to him. Something about promising to always be there for me. Or was that just a part of my dream? How strange, I could have sworn I felt Hinata kiss me. No, that had to have been a dream. Naruto shook his head, bemused. His mind sure came up with the weirdest ideas in the space between dream and reality. Finn. Hyuga Hayashi frowned at the reports before him. How had all of this escaped his notice? As the Hyuga clan head, he naturally took great pride in his eyes. The Hyuga eyes were legendary for their ability to see things at great distances and with great clarity, even more so for their ability to see through, not just objects, but people, as well. Their fighting style revolved around that fact. Of less renown was their ability to see and analyze a person's potential. The Byakugan was nothing like the Sharingan, of course. But a highly trained Byakugan master could read the smallest nuances in body language and could predict with great accuracy his opponent's next move. Off the battlefield, the Byakugan had other uses, especially in diplomacy and negotiation. A Byakugan master could almost always spot a lie or an ulterior motive. It could be used to analyze people. Hayashi had never been wrong about anyone before now. But according to his own recent observations and the reports sitting on his desk, he could only come to one conclusion. He had been wrong about his eldest child. 5 years ago, he had analyzed Hinata's abilities and found them lacking. Even without the Byakugan, her shortcomings were obvious. Physically, she was smaller, weaker, and had less talent than any other Hyuga child her age. Her performance in Juken was abysmal. She did not stand tall with pride. Instead, she was overly timid, almost jumping at her own shadow. Whoever heard of a meek Hyuga with a stutter? Hinata was not fit to be a Hyuga of the main house, let alone the next clan head. So he sent her to the academy. It would have been a waste of time to continue training her personally. He had been proven right. In her first year at the academy, among the commoners attempting to be ninja, Hinata, even with the benefit of prior training, had not distinguished herself in any way. Even though he had predicted that outcome, he had still been angry, and informed his daughter that unless she ranked at the top of her class, he would not waste any more of his time looking at her academy records. In retrospect, that had been a mistake. If he had paid more attention to her progress at the academy, perhaps he would have noticed the change sooner. Hinata had not shown him any further reports. And he had busied himself with more important affairs, such as running the clan and overseeing Hanabi's training once she turned 3. Unlike her sister, Hanabi showed great promise for one her age. Over the years, he'd received minor reports of Hinata's progress from the Hyuga instructors that had been assigned to her training. None of it was noteworthy. While her academic studies were beyond reproach, her skill at Juken was still below average. For any other clan, it might have been enough, but not for the Hyuga, who produced some of the best close-ranged fighters in Konoha. Each of her Juken instructors had remarked at one time or another that Hinata's work ethic was impressive. She worked hard and never stopped trying until she showed improvement. But hard work was nothing compared to a person's innate strength. Hard work could only take a person so far. For Hinata, who was far, far behind her peers, it could not possibly take her far enough. So he disregarded the few positive comments her instructors had to say about Hinata's progress. Then several months ago, he had received a late-night visit to his office from Hyuga Isamu. Flashback. Hyuga Hayashi rarely retired early. In a clan the size of the Hyuga, there was much to be done. It was time to review the fiscal reports for household supplies and food expenditures. Then he needed to review the revised patrol schedule for the branch members assigned to protect the Hyuga grounds. A cup of cold green tea, half full, sat by his elbow. Only the rustle of papers broke the silence in his office as he worked. A knock roused him from his concentration. Enter. Hayashi-sama, Hyuga Isamu, one of Hinata's Juken instructors, bowed low. I apologize for disturbing you so late. Isamu, Hayashi acknowledged his apology with a nod. I assume you have news that cannot wait until you submit a written report. Yes, Hayashi-sama. I thought you might be interested to hear an account of Hinata-sama's spar today with Katsu, of the branch house. Now, why would you think that? Hayashi narrowed his eyes in irritation. No doubt my daughter lost yet again. I tire of hearing her failures. No, Hayashi-sama. Hinata-sama won her match against Katsu. Besides a minuscule twitch of an eyebrow, Hayashi remained impassive. But for someone of Hayashi's iron control, it was equivalent to open-mouthed gaping on anyone else. Explain, Hayashi ordered. Flashback. Isamu had described the spar in detail. Hyuga Katsu, while not a prodigy, had modest skill in Juken. Had it been a fluke? As the months passed, it became obvious that it was no stroke of luck. Hinata emerged victorious several more times against various other Hyuga children in her age group, not against Niji, of course. Niji remained undefeated among his peers. Her rate of success was steadily increasing. In the last month alone, she had won 3 out of 5 spars. She was no longer the weakest Hyuga. Within weeks, the entire clan, including the elders on the clan council, had noticed the change. Although Hinata had shown astonishing, and absolutely amazing, improvement in Juken, it was not enough to cement her position as the heiress. Behind closed doors, Hayashi knew that the elders were hotly debating the next clan leader. Should they choose Hinata or Hanabi? Hinata was the elder daughter, and by all rights the position should have been hers without question. Now that she was proving herself to be at least proficient in Juken, the more traditional elders of the council were content to have her remain the heiress. However, others were still skeptical of her ability. It would take time for them to change their perception of Hinata. While younger, Hanabi was very talented, and would also make a fitting heiress. The council was too evenly divided. Thus, the elders decided to settle the issue with a trial by combat. Flashback. It was Saturday. It was time for training in Juken. Hinata sighed in resignation. She much preferred to learn Juken from Gai-sensei. Hinata arrived at the clan dojo, expecting only Isamu and perhaps another Hyuga as her sparring partner. Instead, she found all 12 elders of the clan council, her father, and Hanabi waiting for her. She ruthlessly squashed her rising anxiety. What were they doing here? Father. Honorable elders, Hinata bowed respectfully. Hanabi-chan. We have heard of your new aptitude in Juken, and wish to see this for ourselves. You will fight Hanabi today, announced Hyuga Hideki, one of the elders. What was going on? Why did they want her to spar with Hanabi? It was no use trying to read the impassive faces of the elders or her father. They were too skilled and would not give anything away. On the other hand, Hanabi was only 6. Hinata glanced at her sister. While Hanabi tried to maintain a stoic expression, she was not entirely successful. Hanabi-chan is afraid. Hinata realized suddenly. Why would she be afraid of a simple spar between sisters? Unless. This is not a simple demonstration of my skill. You wish to use this fight to determine which of us will become the successor, and which of us you will place in the branch house. You are correct, Hideki nodded once. If he was surprised at how quickly she caught on, he did not show it. Hinata almost panicked. What should she do? She was certain that she could defeat Hanabi if she went all out. Hanabi was undeniably talented, but Hinata had 5 extra years of physical growth and Juken training behind her. Unless she deliberately threw the fight, there was no way Hanabi could win. And if she cannot win, Hanabi-chan will be sent to the branch house with the caged bird seal. The thought horrified Hinata. She had promised her sister that she would do everything in her power to protect her from that fate, although she had expected a few more years to work out a plan. What was she going to do now? She had promised. Naruto would never go back on a promise, no matter what. Just the thought of him gave her courage and filled her with resolve. He would never break a promise, and neither would she. Your logic is flawed. Hinata raised her chin, just a fraction of an inch. It was barely noticeable unless you were a Hyuga. It was equivalent to screaming her defiance in their faces, and the elders knew it. Oh? Please explain. Hideki's voice remained smooth and courteous, but his sudden, intense stare said volumes. If you wish to see the true extent of my abilities, then you have chosen the worst possible opponent for me to face. Hanabi-chan is my precious Imuto. I will not hurt her. I will never hurt her. If you force us to spar, I will hold back. How will you judge my true abilities then? Hinata could feel the weight of 13 intense glares fall on her. Her hands trembled. She might not have been the most perceptive Hyuga, but even she could not mistake their silent message. You do not know your place, and you will stand down. Despite her shaking hands and pounding heart, Hinata returned their fierce glares with one of her own. She raised her chin, just another fraction of an inch. No. The air was thick with tension. Hinata would not back down. And the elders were not used to their desires being thwarted, especially not by the weakest Hyuga. They were at an impasse. Flashback. The trial by combat between the sisters had not happened. In the end, Hayashi had stepped in, and reminded the elders that they were still there to judge Hinata's prowess in Juken. A different opponent had been selected for Hinata, and she had acquitted herself admirably. The elders had been outraged and grudgingly impressed. Rumors continued to spread through the clan. Not only was Hinata no longer the weakest, she was also gutsy, and had the sheer audacity to stand up to the council. True, it had been a small matter, but the old Hinata would have acquiesced immediately. The timid little mouse among the Hyuga had transformed into a kitten that had claws and teeth and wasn't afraid to use them. Hayashi was both pleased, for Hinata was finally showing traits worthy of a Hyuga, and perturbed. He was overflowing with questions. When did Hinata start to change? How had he not seen it before? Where did this hidden strength come from? Was the training provided by the Ninja Academy actually superior to the Hyuga training methods in some way? Preposterous. And if she had been hiding her strength, what else had she been hiding? How had he been so wrong, so blind, about his own daughter? Hayashi could only come to a second disconcerting conclusion. He did not know his daughter. Who was Hinata? Hayashi was a busy man. He spent time with Hanabi every day, as he oversaw her training in Juken personally. But he only saw Hinata for a short while during dinner every night. Dinners were silent affairs. Hayashi never saw the need to make small talk with his children. During the day, he was occupied with clan business and Hanabi's training. He had never made an effort to make time for his eldest child. He tried to think back on the last time he'd seen Hinata outside of their nightly meal, and could not remember. After Isamu's shocking news, Hayashi started to observe his daughter more carefully. Hinata showed no signs of any outward changes. She still did not walk tall with pride. She still spoke softly, though her stutter had, thankfully, disappeared. When did that happen? She still jumped whenever he raised his voice. She still gave every appearance of frailty, though he knew now that she was more than she appeared. Each observation only reinforced the incorrect impression that Hinata was just as weak today as the day he sent her to the academy. He waited to see if she would mention her progress in Juken or her victory against Hyuga Katsu. She did not. Were it not for Hyuga Isamu, Hayashi would have remained ignorant of her improvement. It was almost as if she didn't want him to know. Why? Why try to conceal such news when it would only improve her position within the clan? This was not something that could be concealed, not for long in any case. Why delay? What was she trying to hide? There were too many questions and not enough answers. Thus, he, finally, requested detailed copies of Hinata's academy records for the last 5 years. There had been some delay, apparently her files had been misplaced, and he had only received them last week. Hayashi made a mental note to file a complaint against her instructor, Yumino Irika, was it? With the superintendent of the academy for his incompetence. Hinata was not the number 1 student in her class. That position belonged to Uchiha Sasuke. But for the last 2 years, she managed to rank among the top 5, and she was the best Kunoichi in her class. While not ideally, she would have wrested the number 1 spot from Uchiha Sasuke. It was acceptable, and much better than her mediocre performance during her first year. According to the records, Hinata's improvement had begun sometime in the middle of her second year. What happened that year? He could glean nothing else from them. In a fit of aggravation, he commanded Hyuga Sho, the best information gatherer in the clan and a colleague of Marino Ibiki, to observe Hinata's activities discreetly and report every detail back to him. Hinata left the Hyuga compound every morning before the sun came up. She trained with Mado Gai, building up her stamina and working on both standard academy taijutsu and juken, before heading to the academy. How long had she been working with Gai? Hayashi frowned in distaste at the thought of the green-clad jounin. Was he the one behind her transformation? It seemed likely. After the academy, she would spend time with one of her classmates until she returned home for dinner. Usually, all they did was extra training together, although occasionally, they visited the Konoha Public Park or Ichiraku Ramen instead. From their familiarity with each other and bits of overheard conversation, Hyuga Sho concluded that the 2 children were very good friends, and had likely been good friends for years. Reviewing the report, Hayashi had to concur. After dinner and before bed, Hinata and Hanabi would spend time together bonding and just talking about inconsequential things. Hayashi was stunned by that last piece of news. He had not known that his daughters were close. They had never been demonstrative in front of him, and he had assumed, incorrectly, yet again, that the 5-year age gap and Hinata's almost but not quite outcast position in the clan kept them from being close. He did not know Hinata. Now he wondered if he even knew Hanabi. All in all, Hinata comported herself almost without reproach. She sought additional training from Mado Gai, a respected taijutsu specialist. She produced acceptable scores at the academy. And while surprising, Hayashi could find no fault with cultivating a close relationship with her sister. If her friend had been anyone else, Hayashi would have approved of Hinata's conduct. He tapped a finger on the report before him. It landed on a name. Now, he understood exactly what, or rather, who, his eldest daughter was trying to hide. Uzumaki Naruto. The Jinchuriki, the demon container, of the Kyubi no Yuko. His daughter was friend to Uzumaki Naruto. Unlike the majority of the village, Hayashi did not hate the Kyubi container. He had known the Yandame personally, and had absolute faith in the abilities of the 4th Hokage. Before his death, the Yandame had assured him that his seal would hold the Kyubi, and that it would never break free or take control of the host. Hayashi believed him. But the Hyuga had a reputation to maintain, and Uzumaki Naruto was the village pariah. Hinata must have known this. It was obvious to anyone with eyes, let alone the Byakugan, though she would not have known the reasons behind it. She must also have known how he would react. It was time for him to make some time for his eldest daughter. They were overdue for a father-daughter chat. It simply would not do for Hinata to associate with that boy. Hinata was spending a rare hour with Hanabi in the garden their mother had loved. Hyuga Haruki had secretly been a non-traditionalist. As the wife of the Hyuga clan head, and as the Lady Hyuga, she had publicly conformed to the rules and standards set for her. But in her private garden, she could let her desires run wild. Haruki had secretly detested the perfectly manicured lawns, perfectly trimmed shrubs, and perfectly pruned flowers that were the norm in every other perfectly ordered Hyuga garden. It seemed that even the plants on the estate were forced to conform to perfect Hyuga standards. However, in her own private garden, she had allowed nature to take its course. The plants and flowers were free to grow as they would. There were over 100 different varieties of wildflowers that blended together in a rainbow of colors. None of which were forced to grow in specific flower beds or patterns. The only order in the wild garden was a gravel path that meandered lazily throughout, granting visitors a way to enjoy the natural view from different angles. A moss-covered fountain in the center provided the soothing sound of running water. A single stone bench beside the fountain offered a spot for rest and contemplation. This had been her escape, however temporary, from the rigid structure of her life. For both Hinata and Hanabi, their mother's garden served the same purpose. Away from prying eyes, they could simply be sisters, and Hanabi could simply be a child, not the fearless Hyuga warrior the clan was trying to mold. Hinata sat on the stone bench and watched the little girl run about the garden gathering flowers to make flower crowns and necklaces for each other. Hinata smiled. She never took her relationship with her sister for granted. It was too precious, and 2 years ago, it had almost been destroyed. Flashback. Hinata was dead tired. It had been one of those days where life seemed to hate her more than usual. The day had been one disaster after another. First, she had overslept and arrived almost an hour late to morning training with Gai-sensei and the boys. As a result, she missed her chance to spar with Naruto because Gai-sensei had her run extra laps in order to rekindle the flames of youth. When she arrived in class, she discovered to her consternation that not only had she forgotten her homework assignment, she had also forgotten to bring her lunch. Luckily, Iruka-sensei had been understanding and would allow her to turn her assignment in the next day. And Naruto was more than happy to offer her one of his cups of instant ramen. He always seemed to carry a few extra with him. After lunch, she'd accidentally run into Niji in the hallway. He had been so angry that she half expected him to hurt her then and there, though he'd probably tried to take it out on her the next time they sparred. She shuddered just thinking about it. To make matters worse, Naruto had earned detention after class with Iruka-sensei for pulling a prank on Kenta and Jiraiya. They had been making fun of Naruto's inability to perform henge, the transformation jutsu. Hinata was disappointed because she had wanted to hang out with Naruto after class. He could always cheer her up with just a few words, and she really could have used a full dose of Naruto today. Thus, Hinata returned to the Hyuga estate early, hoping to spend some time with Hanabi. But Hanabi's politics instructor, Hyuga Shin, had coolly informed her that Hanabi was still training, as a daughter of the main house should, and did not need any distractions, especially not from her elder sister. Hinata knew that she had just been insulted. By his tone of voice, Hyuga Shin had clearly implied that Hinata did not work hard and should not be allowed to see Hanabi, lest her weakness and incompetence was contagious. The implication stung. Hinata was being pressured to abandon Hanabi. It was not the first time, nor would it be the last. At one time, Hinata might have believed that Hanabi would be better off without her weaker, older sister holding her back. But that had been before Naruto. Naruto's unconditional encouragement and support, even when she felt she didn't deserve it, made Hinata happy. It never made her weaker. Hinata loved Hanabi. Hinata wanted Hanabi to be happy. So Hinata silently promised herself that she would be there for Hanabi, the way Naruto was there for her. Hanabi would always know that her Onizen cared for her, and supported her. Whether or not Hanabi succeeded or failed, Hinata would still love her, and still believe in her. The Hyuga elders could pressure her as much as they wanted. Hinata stubbornly refused to abandon her sister. But when subtle pressure failed to get the result they wanted, the elders tried a different tact. Hinata saw Hanabi every night before bed without fail. The sisters were usually kept so busy that sometimes the few minutes before bed were the only time they had together. Hanabi received private instruction and hours of juken training each day, while Hinata had her own training and classes at the academy to attend. Even if all they could do was exchange a hug or a few words for Hinata, it was the best way to end the day. Hinata was dead tired after one of those days. She just wanted to see her sister, then crawl into bed and pray for the next day to be better. Her day certainly couldn't get any worse. It seemed as if fate was laughing at her because as soon as that thought crossed her mind, it got worse, much worse. I hate you! Hinata jerked back as if she had been physically slapped. Hanabi-chan! Hinata gasped. She stood in the doorway of Hanabi's bedroom in shock. Her sister's normally immaculate room was in shambles. The sheets had been torn off the bed. Every book and scroll she owned had been knocked off the shelves. The painting of a lotus blossom that hung over Hanabi's bed was askew. The collection of small ceramic cats that Hanabi had started collecting was shattered in sharp, jagged pieces in a pile by the wall. Most telling of all, the photograph of Hinata and Hanabi, taken on Hanabi's last birthday, that usually graced her desk was torn to shreds, and the glass frame cracked. It was as if a hurricane had come through her room, leaving nothing intact, or Hanabi had thrown a massive tantrum and destroyed her room in a fit of rage. Hanabi's face was streaked with tears. Hanabi-chan! What's wrong? What happened? Hinata rushed forward in an attempt to comfort her distraught sister, only to receive a punch in the gut. There had been no chakra in the attack, but it still hurt enough to make Hinata gasp for breath. What was going on? I hate you! Hanabi was still crying. You liar! Hanabi-chan, I have never ever lied to you. Why would you say such a thing? Don't call me that. You liar! You don't love me at all. Hanabi tried to hit her again. But this time, Hinata caught her fist and pulled the smaller girl into her embrace. She ignored Hanabi's struggle to get free. That's not true, Hanabi-chan. You are my precious Emoto. I love you more than my life. I swear it. Hinata gently stroked Hanabi's hair and rubbed her back. Really? Hanabi sniffled. She started to relax under her sister's calming touch. It was hard to disbelieve her oneisen, especially when Hinata was so concerned and caring, even after Hanabi hit her. And she sounded so sincere. Really, Hinata said firmly. She looked her sister in the eyes. Hanabi-chan is very precious to me. Oh, Hanabi said in a small voice that trembled. But Shin-sensei, he said that Onizen can't wait to be named clan head. That Onizen can't wait to put the caged bird seal on Hanabi-chan. And that Onizen wants to send Hanabi-chan away to the branch house. And then Shin-sensei hee. Hinata frowned. She could feel Hanabi shaking in her arms, nearly overflowing with fear. She placed a comforting kiss on Hanabi's unmarked forehead. What did he do, Hanabi-chan? He heard Miyu from the branch house because she didn't bring him his favorite chocolate candy from Snow Country when she brought us our tea. She screamed and screamed. And then Shin-sensei said that when Onizen becomes clan head, Onizen will make Hanabi-chan scream and scream if Hanabi-chan makes Onizen mad. Of course, Hanabi had always known of the caged bird seal. She was a Hyuga of the main house and the second-born child of the clan head. She had known of the caged bird seal almost before she could walk and talk. But the caged bird seal had always been an abstract, technical thing that did not impact Hanabi personally. If Hanabi ever thought of the seal at all, it was in the same way that she thought of marriage or death. Eventually, she knew she would get married. Eventually, many years from now, she knew she would die. And eventually, when her Onizen became the clan leader, she would receive the caged bird seal. It had never been personal. It had never frightened her. The thought of her loving sister actually using it on her had never crossed her mind. But now. I'm so scared, Onizen, Hanabi whispered. The 4-year-old crawled into her sister's lap and buried her face in her sister's shoulder. Hinata had a kind soul. Despite her harsh treatment at the hands of her family, she did not hate her clansmen. Instead, she did her best to fix her flaws and improve herself for their benefit. But this was unforgivable. The elders had failed to get Hinata to leave her sister. Now they were trying to break the bonds between Hanabi and Hinata, and trying to frighten Hanabi into leaving Hinata. For the first time in her life, Hinata knew true hatred. She hated the division within her clan. She hated the caged bird seal. And she hated Hyuga Shin for using the caged bird seal so frivolously, in order to scare Hanabi away from her. She had seen her father use caged bird seal used 3 times before. Even though it made her sick, each time he used it, it had been for a major transgression that would have brought danger to the clan, never for something as simple as forgetting to bring candy along with the tea. Hinata took several deep breaths and pushed her anger and disgust aside. Listen to me, Hanabi-chan. I love you. I promise on my life that I will never hurt you or send you away. Nothing could ever make me mad enough to hurt you. Hanabi gave her sister a long searching look and seemed reassured by the love she could see in Hinata's eyes. Her fear slowly faded away. I trust you, Onizen. Hinata nearly sagged with relief. Hanabi gave her sister an apologetic kiss on the cheek. I love you too. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I hit you. Already forgiven and forgotten, Hanabi-chan, Hinata said with a small smile. A few minutes later, Hanabi looked at the destruction around her and sniffled, once again on the verge of tears. I broke my cats and tore my favorite picture of us. Don't cry, Hanabi-chan. I can buy some new cats for you. And I still have a copy of that picture. Or we can take a new picture of us tomorrow. Would you like that? Hanabi nodded and let Hinata dry her tears. Come on. I'll help you clean up. The next week, the entire stock of dark chocolate candies imported from the land of snow, the same ones favored by the elder, Hyuga Shin, vanished from the Hyuga estate. It would take at least another 2 months before more of the candy would arrive. Trade between the land of fire and the land of snow was often slow due to distance and bandits. Coincidentally, that same week, a bolt of lovely, purple, patterned silk arrived anonymously for Hyuga Miyu of the branch family. Miyu had sighed longingly over that bolt at the market several days prior, but could not justify the purchase of such expensive fabric on a whim. Flashback. Normally, Hinata did not condone revenge. Naruto must have rubbed off on her more than she realized. It was such a small, petty thing, too. But afterwards, Hinata felt much better. Despite further attempts to separate them, her relationship with Hanabi was stronger than ever. Hanabi trusted Hinata, and she would never betray that trust. Is Onizen daydreaming about her boyfriend again? Hanabi teased, bringing Hinata's mind back to the present. She dropped a pile of brightly colored blossoms in Hinata's lap. Hanabi-chan. Hinata blushed. I've told you again and again. Naruto-kun is not my boyfriend. We're just friends. I know he's not, Hanabi laughed. But you want him to be, don't you? I can tell. You always get this dreamy look on your face whenever you talk about him. I do not. Hinata protested, and blushed even harder. Do too. Hinata and Naruto sitting in a tree kissing. In retaliation, Hinata threw a flower at Hanabi's head. But this only made her sister laugh harder. Hinata had to grin. Even though Hanabi was annoying when she teased her about Naruto-kun, Hinata was glad to see her smiling and laughing like a 6-year-old. Unfortunately, the moment was broken by the arrival of a messenger at the entrance of their garden. I am sorry to intrude, Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama. The messenger bowed low. Hayashi-sama requests Hinata-sama's presence in his office immediately. The moment was broken by the arrival of a messenger at the entrance of their garden. I am sorry to intrude, Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama. The messenger bowed low. Hayashi-sama requests Hinata-sama's presence in his office immediately. Hanabi shot her sister a worried glance. Their father had not summoned Hinata to see him in years. She might be the youngest in the family, but she wasn't stupid. Every other time he requested Hinata's presence in his office had been to criticize her for failing to live up to his expectations. Hanabi had never been on the receiving end of one of her father's chastisements, but she had eavesdropped on them occasionally, and had even been present once or twice. It was always unpleasant to say the least. This couldn't be anything good. Hinata had been doing so well lately. She had improved her juken. She had won several spars in a row against her peers. Why did their father want to see Hinata now? Thank you. I will be there in a moment, Hinata said firmly. The messenger bowed and left, having completed his duty. Hinata gave Hanabi a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Hanabi-chan. Everything will be okay. Now if only she could believe her own words. Do you know why you are here? Hayashi regarded his daughter carefully. She stood with her back straight, and with hands clasped in front of her. Though he could find no trace of nervousness in her posture, she would not meet his eyes. No, father. You have been training under Meito Gai. Yes, father. Hinata did not react outwardly to her father's observation, but the sudden dread in her heart made it hard to speak. He is a respected taijutsu specialist, one of the best in Konoha. It is no wonder that you were able to improve under his tutelage. You have finally achieved a passable level of skill in juken. Thank you, father. Gai-sensei is an excellent instructor. Training is his passion. You have also done well in your academic studies, both at the academy and under your private instructors. However, you still have much to learn, especially in the niceties of proper behavior befitting a person of your status. For instance, it is not proper for the Hyuga heiress to be friends with a penniless orphan. The blood drained from her face, and she could feel her heartbeat quicken. He knew. Her father knew about Naruto. I suppose it is not entirely your fault, Hayashi allowed. We have neglected your social training in favor of furthering your academic studies and improving your juken. That was a mistake. If you had had more training in the comportment expected of an heiress, then perhaps you might have avoided making such an improper friend. The Uzumaki child is nobody. For you to be friends with him implies that he has the nominal approval of our clan. We are one of the most respected clans in the Land of Fire. We have a reputation to uphold, a reputation that does not include associating with the riffraff. Your behavior reflects poorly upon the clan. From now on, you will no longer associate with the Uzumaki child. Despite her recent displays of strength, Hayashi expected immediate compliance to his orders, not defiance. He almost blinked in shock when he heard the softly spoken word. No. Hayashi raised an eyebrow. Hinata was clearly afraid. Her stutter was back and her face was as white as a sheet. But she didn't back down. Interesting. When backed into a corner, the kitten revealed its hidden claws again. He wondered how far she would go to protect her friendship with the boy. Oh? Perhaps I did not make myself clear enough. I will explain in simpler terms. It is unwise of you to befriend an orphan with no future prospects. I forbid you from seeing Uzumaki Naruto outside of your normal classes at the academy. No! Hinata had a moment of panic. Her greatest fear was coming to pass. She couldn't let her father take Naruto-kun from her. What was she going to do? She had been expecting something like this for years. She was only surprised it had not come sooner. 4 years ago, something like this would have crushed her. But 4 years as Naruto's best friend had rubbed off on her, just a little bit. It was enough. She was prepared to defend the most precious thing she had, her friendship with Naruto, no matter what it took. Hinata was deathly afraid of her father. But she was more afraid of losing Naruto. No, I will not. Naruto-kun has future prospects. He has more potential than anyone else I know. It is unwise of the Hyuga not to make ties with the future Hokage of this village, she said fiercely. Unless you intend to lock me in my room and keep me there by force, I will be friends with Uzumaki Naruto. In that moment, with her eyes blazing, Hayashi was jolted by just how strong his frail daughter appeared. Once Hinata started, she couldn't seem to stop, and words spilled from her heart to her mouth, completely bypassing her head. Naruto-kun is a strong ninja. Because of him I can become a strong ninja too. It was his idea for us to train with Gai-sensei in the first place. It is his encouragement that makes me stronger, not because he can teach me new techniques or skills, but because he believes in me. Whenever I make a mistake, or fail, he's there to pick me up and tell me I did great. Even when I fail, he tells me that the next time I will definitely get it right. Unlike this family, Naruto-kun believes in me. Unlike this family, Naruto-kun never gave up on me, not once. And he won't let me give up on myself either. Because of him, I can like myself more. Because of him, I've stopped hating myself for being so weak. Naruto-kun is my best friend. You will not take him away from me. Hinata's hands flew to her mouth in horror. She had not meant to say all those things. She was practically shouting at her father. She took several shaky breaths in an attempt to calm herself. For her rebellion and blatant disrespect towards her father, her punishment would be terrible. For such disobedience towards the clan head, he could banish her to the branch house. She was already in a world of trouble. She might as well go all the way. Hinata looked her father squarely in the eyes and spoke with absolute conviction. One day, Naruto-kun will be the Hokage, and I will be there by his side. I see. Hayashi stared impassively at his daughter. Is that your final word on this matter? It is. Hinata tried unsuccessfully to keep her hands from trembling under the pressure. You understand that you are defying a direct order from your clan head. Are you prepared to accept the punishment, including the possibility of receiving the caged bird seal? I am. The silence that followed was deafening. Hayashi thought he should feel angry about Hinata's rebellion. He should have been furious. But strangely he was not. All he felt was pride. For the first time in years, for the first time since Hinata's first steps as a baby, he was actually proud of his daughter. Suddenly he could almost see the ghost of his friend standing behind his daughter with his hand on her shoulder, and he could hear a familiar voice whisper in his ear. Do you know what makes a good leader, Hayashi? Flashback. Do you know what makes a good leader, Hayashi? Strength, of course, he replied automatically. A leader must be strong. Strength is a part of it, true, but it takes more than just strength to be a good leader. His friend looked out over the village and waved his hand carelessly. There are a lot of strong ninja out there, but most of them would make terrible leaders. Only a handful of people ever become great leaders. Do you know why? Share with me your words of wisdom, O mighty Hokage-sama. Someday, Hayashi, I'm going to get you. Stop calling me that. His blonde friend laughed. Then he said seriously, every great leader must embody 6 very important qualities. The first quality is, as you have said, strength. The second is unwavering courage. The third is belief in themselves and in the people around them. The fourth is the willingness to take responsibility for your decisions, no matter what the consequences may be. The fifth is empathy for and understanding of the people you lead. If you don't feel for them or try to understand them, how will you know what your people need? The sixth, and final, quality of a great leader is vision. A leader must have a clear vision of the future. Every decision they make takes them closer towards that future. I want Konoha to be a place where people can be safe and prosper. I want the children of the village to grow up safe and happy. Flashback. For some reason, he had never forgotten that conversation. Namake's Minato had been an amazing friend, and an even more amazing Hokage. He had possessed all 6 traits of leadership in spades. Before today, Hayashi had not believed Hinata could ever become a capable leader, let alone the kind of leader the Hyuga clan needed. But here she was displaying every trait. Strength. In the last few months, she had manifested amazing new strength, defeating her peers through hard work. In a few more years, she had the potential to be truly formidable. Courage. She had faced down the entire Council of Elders, despite her obvious fear. And right now, she was almost daring him to stop her from being friends with Uzumaki Naruto. Where had the timid little mouse gone? Belief. Her greatest weakness had been her lack of faith in herself. She had quit too easily, too often. But now she had said it herself, she stopped giving up. He could see the confidence shining within her. Responsibility, no matter the consequences. She wasn't backing down. She was fighting for the right to remain friends with the boy, despite the very real possibility of losing her status as the heiress and receiving the caged bird seal. Empathy and understanding. These were qualities that Hinata had always possessed. She had always been too kind. Hayashi was not blind. Most members of the Hyuga branch house liked his daughter for her compassion and gentle nature. And finally, vision. Hinata saw a future Hokage allied with the Hyuga, and was taking steps to make that future a reality. That boy? A future Hokage? Only time would tell. But for now. The ghost of his friend standing behind his daughter slowly morphed into an image of a golden-haired child with equally intense blue eyes before fading away completely. If the boy was behind his daughter's transformation, then he must also possess some of those same qualities. He was truly the Yandame's legacy. The Yandame's legacy. Hayashi paused and sat up a little straighter, as a suspicion took root in the back of his mind. The Sandame occasionally referred to the child as the Yandame's legacy, even though Minato's wife and unborn child had died during the Kyuubi attack so many years ago. Could it be? Hayashi mentally shook himself. He could think about that another day. He made his decision. Very well. Hinata tensed, anticipating an explosion of rage, or worse, banishment to the branch house. She had just promised to disobey her clan head. She was going to be punished, of course. It was only a question of how severe her punishment would be. But to stay with Naruto, she would gladly endure any punishment. Hinata searched her father's face and body language for signs of anger. Sadly, she was very familiar with all the signs. Only instead of a harsh scowl and cold, unforgiving eyes, her father was smiling? Hinata's mouth dropped open in shock, and she wanted to pinch herself. Her father was smiling, a rare enough occurrence, although it did happen occasionally. What stunned her was the fact that was he smiling at her. He never smiled at her. Was he actually pleased with her? A leader must learn when to make his own decisions and when to listen to the advice of his subordinates, even when it contradicts his own ideas. I am not well acquainted with Uzumaki Naruto. I only know of him through the second-hand observations of others. I do not know him personally, as you obviously do. Hinata held her breath. Her father was not reacting like she expected. It was disconcerting, and in some ways more frightening than the full force of his anger. Your argument for your continued association with him was impressive. Thank you? Hinata was even more bewildered. She? Impress her father? Impossible. I suppose the long-term benefits of a Hokage allied to our clan outweighs a minor mark on our reputation. Hayashi gave her a sharp measuring look. It will be interesting to see if you are right about him. I will be watching Uzumaki Naruto's career very closely. Sarutobi took a calming puff on his pipe. Smoking was a terrible vice. According to his old student, Tsunade, it was terribly unhealthy, too. Still, he was an old man. After all he'd seen and lived through, well, he deserved to have a few vices. He carefully considered the Jonin's request. It was a bit unusual, to request a single apprentice rather than a team of 3 genin, but it was not unheard of. Sometimes Jonin preferred taking a single student over splitting their attention between 3 students, though it was not a common practice. Are you sure this is what you want? It is, Hokage-sama. A pity. I think you would have made a fine instructor for a team of genin. Are you certain you don't want to take on a full team, and give your apprentice 2 teammates? Lee could learn a lot from working with his peers, and eventually, in order to pass the Chunin exams, he will need a team. I have already spoken to Lee. He agrees with me, Hokage-sama. This is what we both want. I do not make this request lightly. The Jonin met his gaze steadily. The Hokage sighed. There was no reason not to grant the Jonin's request, other than more paperwork. He carefully stamped the document with his seal, then blew on it lightly to dry the ink. Very well. Your request has been approved. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Naruto gasped for breath as he finished the newest kata in his repertoire. Guy-sensei had taught it to him and Lee last week. Lee had already mastered it and was off running laps again. Naruto would have finished earlier and joined him, except that he had just increased his weights a few days ago. Each and every kata he knew suddenly became doubly difficult to execute. He used a towel to wipe away the sweat on his face and sighed a little in frustration. The difficulty would only last until he got used to the additional weight. The muscles in his arms and legs burned from overexertion. He couldn't wait until his limbs felt normal again. He grabbed a bottle of water from his pack and took a long, refreshing drink. Movement at the edge of the training ground caught his eye, and he almost choked on his water. It was Hinata. Naruto grinned at the pleasant surprise. Hinata rarely left the Hyuga estate on the weekends. Her family kept her too busy with all their private instruction. But he was always happy to see his best friend. He jogged over to greet her. Hinata-chan, what are you doing here? I thought you'd be too busy to train with me today. Naruto-kun. Hinata jolted in surprise. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't remember leaving the Hyuga estate or automatically walking towards their training ground. She didn't even see Naruto until he announced his presence. Hinata-chan? Naruto frowned. His friend looked pale and dazed, like she had just woken from a dream. His eyes widened in alarm. You're shaking. Hinata looked down slowly. Sure enough, her hands were shaking. She had been nervous, worried, terrified, panicked, determined, angry, shocked, and relieved, all within the space of an hour. But a Hyuga was always dignified and self-contained. Excessive displays of emotion were frowned upon. So she had internalized and suppressed as many of those feelings as she could. It was too much. It needed an outlet. She looked at Naruto, who was worriedly checking her over for injuries. His obvious concern for her well-being touched her. Hinata sniffled. It made her so happy. That last emotion combined with all the others finally broke her self-control. Hinata started laughing and crying at the same time. Hinata-chan, what's wrong? Naruto was worried before, but now he was absolutely frantic. He couldn't find anything physically wrong with her. She had simply grabbed onto him as if he were a lifeline. She wouldn't stop crying, and she wouldn't talk to him either. In the end, he simply held her and let her cry all over his shirt. He did his best to comfort her by awkwardly patting her back. Whatever it is, just stop crying, okay? I'll help you. That only made her cry harder. Naruto snapped his mouth shut and decided not to say anything else, in case he just made things worse. After several minutes, Hinata finally stopped crying and loosened her death grip on Naruto, though she didn't pull away completely. Hinata hiccuped a little. She was embarrassed for falling apart in front of Naruto, but he didn't seem to mind. And she felt much better. They sat quietly for a few more minutes. My father ordered me to stop associating with you. Naruto felt his heart stop. I said no. Then I announced my intention to disobey a direct order from my father. Hinata said with more than a touch of disbelief. I thought for sure that he would put the caged bird seal on me for that. Naruto stopped breathing. His hand immediately flew to her head and brushed aside her bangs. Her forehead was unmarked. He released a shaky breath. If she had received the caged bird seal because of him, he would never forgive himself. What happened? He whispered. And then nothing. Hinata shook her head in amazement. Nothing at all. Father was impressed that I stood up to him. I don't believe it. I impressed my father. That's impossible. I must be dreaming. Am I dreaming, Naruto-kun? I doubt it, Hinata-chan. Naruto smiled. You're a pretty impressive girl. It's about time your father realized it, too. I knew you'd show him eventually. Hinata blushed lightly. He always knew just what to say to make her feel better. Thank you, Naruto-kun. She leaned into his embrace and closed her eyes. Thank you? Huh? Why? I didn't do anything. It was all you. Hinata didn't say anything. She simply shook her head. You're wrong, Naruto-kun. You did everything. Because of you, I was able to change. I think I know I like myself more now. For you, I found the strength to stand up to my father. Thank you for everything. I'm okay now, Naruto-kun. Let's go train. The next day at the academy. Naruto approached Hinata's desk during the short break between outdoor weapons practice at the target range and more history lessons, mostly about famous shinobi battles, in the classroom. He had been watching her closely all day, looking for any sign of distress or discomfort. Yesterday, Hinata had assured him that she was all right, and that her father would not punish her for choosing to remain his friend. But he had his doubts. What if her father changed his mind? Naruto was selfishly glad that Hinata was still his friend. But he didn't want to risk her well-being. The first thing he checked that morning had been her forehead. It was still unmarked. Thank goodness. Still, her clan might find other ways to punish her for associating with the demon brat. To his great relief, Hinata appeared fine, if a little bit distracted. What is it, Naruto-kun? Hinata blushed when he put his hand on her clean forehead. Only time would ease his fears. Nothing. I'm just making sure you're okay, Naruto said seriously. I want you to promise me something, Hinata-chan. I know that if you make a promise, you'll keep it, because we never go back on our words. What is it? Promise me that you'll always tell me if you're not okay. I want to be there to help you when you're sad or unwell. Only if you promise me the same, Naruto-kun. It's a deal then. Naruto grinned. He leaned in and peered closely at her face, making Hinata feel a bit lightheaded. He's too close. Are you sure you're okay? Yes, she squeaked. Just checking. Naruto smiled. He straightened up and returned to his desk. At least that had been the plan. Except, plans don't always work out. Jiraiya, who sat in the row in front of Hinata, suddenly remembered that he'd left his weapons bag at the target range. He glanced at the clock. If he hurried, he could run out and retrieve it before Irika-sensei returned and took attendance. He jumped to his feet, completely unaware that Naruto was standing directly behind him, and slammed into Naruto's back. With that sudden jolt, Naruto pitched forward and fell right into Hinata. Luckily, his reflexes caught his forward momentum enough that he was able to keep most of his weight from landing and injuring Hinata. But his face collided with hers. And their lips were touching. Wide blue eyes gazed into equally wide lavender eyes. For a split second, they were too shocked to move. And then Naruto jerked back as if he had been burned. Oh my god! I'm so sorry, Hinata-chan. Are you okay? Hinata's entire body was tingling. His lips were so warm and soft. She and Naruto-kun. We just kissed. Hinata fainted. Finn. Naruto frowned as he counted all the coins and loose bills spread out on his bed. Was this all the money he had? He counted again, but the total amount remained the same. It wasn't enough. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He had been saving for almost half a year and cutting corners everywhere. He turned off the air conditioner during the summer despite the sweltering heat to save on the electric bill. He continued using his old nicked and scratched practice weapons when should have replaced them months ago. He even limited himself to one visit to Ichiraku's every 2 weeks instead of eating there once every few days. Ichiraku had fair prices, so eating there wasn't expensive, but nothing was cheaper than instant cup ramen. He grimaced. Cup ramen was a poor substitute for Ichiraku's ramen. And Tucci and Ayam had been giving him worried looks the last couple of times he'd stopped by. It couldn't be helped. He couldn't get a job, so he needed to save as much of his stipend as possible. He never had much money to begin with. Being overcharged for everyday items didn't help. Back when he was 7, he hadn't realized that normal people didn't have to pay extra for the privilege of shopping at the market for groceries and basic supplies. He was 12 now, a little older and a little more observant. He noticed the small details that he missed when he was 7, like how Irika-sensei insisted on helping him buy all his school supplies every year, or how despite all the times Ichiraku Ajisen supplier made mistakes and sent boxes of candies or small treats instead of flour or spices, Ichiraku Ajisen never seemed to mind. Naruto had never mentioned it to Irika-sensei or Ichiraku Ajisen, because they never made a big deal out of it, but he was grateful to them. It warmed his heart to know that they cared about him enough to go out of their way to help him in little ways without ever expecting anything in return. But the fact that they needed to help him at all was another painful reminder that he was different. It was just one more thing that set him apart from everyone else in the village. Why? Even after all these years, he still didn't understand why everyone in the village hated him so much. The Sandaime Hokage would never tell him the reason, no matter how often he asked. So he learned to stop asking a long time ago. When he was young, he sometimes tried to tell himself that the glares and the hateful whispers directed at him were a product of his overactive imagination. Perhaps he simply suffered from paranoia, except Hinata could see them, too. That led to the first hurdle in their burgeoning friendship. 3 years ago. It was late afternoon. After a typical day at the academy, Naruto and Hinata were headed towards the training grounds to practice their taijutsu, which meant that Naruto was walking with Hinata in public. He deliberately steered them away from the busiest streets in order to minimize his exposure to the villagers and their passive hostility. From the corner of his eye, he could see a young mother drag her child across the street when she noticed him approaching. Yeah, Typical. His shoulders sagged. He was used to being treated like a leper. Naruto glanced at the girl walking beside him and felt some of his cheer return. Hinata acknowledged him and believed in him. He was important to her. The thought comforted him and made him feel as if he just won a lifetime supply of free ramen. As long as he had Hinata, he wasn't alone. His existence meant something. She didn't know it, but she was the reason he could ignore the ice-cold glares of the villagers so easily. As they walked past a modest cafe, he could smell the pleasant aroma of fresh baked bread and pastries. A cheerful sign above the door read Emmy's Bakery and Cafe. Several beautiful cakes and a collection of frosted pastries and artfully arranged fruit tarts were on display in the window. He wondered briefly if they tasted as good as they looked before he pushed that thought away. He knew from painful past experience that someone like him would be unwelcome in some place like that. He took a few more steps before he realized that Hinata was no longer beside him. Looking back, he spotted his best friend in front of the cafe. Hinata-chan? Is something wrong? Ano, would you mind if we stop for a bit, Naruto-kun? Emmy's makes the best cinnamon rolls in Konoha and Hanabi-chan loves their strawberry shortcake, too, so I wanted to buy some for her. I don't mind, Hinata-chan. Your sister is so lucky to have you as her onizen. Hinata blushed lightly at the compliment, but frowned when Naruto remained unmoving. Aren't you coming inside with me, Naruto-kun? Let's split up for a bit, okay? Naruto shifted uneasily. Looking away, he caught sight of a bookstore down the street. I want to look for a few scrolls on chakra theory while you're buying those cakes. See you in a few minutes, Hinata-chan. Before Hinata could object, he was already gone. A few minutes later, Hinata stepped out of Emmy's Bakery and Cafe with a small box of strawberry shortcake. She took a deep breath and deactivated her Byakugan. What she had seen had only confirmed her suspicions. Over the last 2 years, she noticed several odd facts concerning her best friend. Fact 1. Almost every adult, except for the Hokage, Iruka-sensei, and Ichiraku-san, and nearly every child in the village hated Naruto. Hinata didn't need to hear the whispered words or dark mutters directed at her friend. She was Hyuga, trained to read facial expressions and body language. She wasn't as skilled at interpreting nonverbal cues as her cousin Niji, but even she couldn't miss the disgust and loathing that Naruto faced on a daily basis. Fact 2. Naruto never entered any stores or shops with her. He always made up some excuse to wait outside for her. The first few times that happened, she bought his excuses. Now she knew better. He was doing it on purpose. Naruto never patronized any stores or shops with her because most shopkeepers refused to serve him and threatened to hurt him if he didn't leave. Hinata bristled indignantly. With her Byakugan, she had seen Naruto enter the bookstore across the street from the bakery, only to get verbally abused by the bookkeeper the moment he set foot in the shop. The bookkeeper had even thrown a heavy tome at Naruto's head. Only Naruto's quick reflexes saved him from a debilitating concussion. She wondered absently how the staff of Emmy's Bakery and Cafe might have reacted if Naruto had joined her. Whatever else she was a Hyuga. It was akin to financial suicide to offend a Hyuga customer. Would her presence have forced them to serve Naruto? Fact 3. Naruto was the kindest, most caring individual she knew. He was her strength, her inspiration. He was also a bit dense, and had a gift for annoying people by being brutally honest. Naruto had no tact whatsoever. And sometimes he made mistakes. He was only human. Facts 1 and 2 were inconsistent with fact 3. She knew her best friend better than she knew herself, and she knew that Naruto had done nothing to deserve that kind of treatment. She didn't know why he was treated like a missing nin who committed some unforgivable sin against the village. She only knew that whatever the reason was, it was not Naruto's fault. It just wasn't possible. Naruto was too kind. Naruto obviously knew he was persona non grata. The only question was, did he know why? Would he be offended if she asked him? She had been curious about it for over a whole year. By now, her curiosity was unbearable. It was like an itch in the back of her mind that couldn't be scratched. She could ask him. Right. They had been best friends for over 2 years. In that time, she had trusted Naruto with personal secrets and truths about the clan that were not normally shared with outsiders. Naruto had kept her secrets. She wanted to know. She needed Naruto to trust her back. She wanted to prove to him that she could keep his secrets too. If she asked, Naruto wouldn't mind. Right. They were best friends, so she could ask him personal questions. Right. And then he had to know that he could trust her. Right. Hinata-chan? Hinata-chan? She blinked in surprise at the hand waving in front of her face, and blushed. What were you thinking so hard about? I've been trying to get your attention for a while. Naruto grinned at her. Did you get the cakes you wanted? I'm sure Hanabi will love them. Come on. We should get going, it's getting late. And I want to practice the kata that Guy-sensei showed us this morning. I can't let Lee beat me. Naruto tilted his head in confusion and let his words trail off. Hinata was acting strangely. He frowned. Hey, are you okay, Hinata-chan? Hinata nervously pressed her fingers together. She could do this. Right. I know, Naruto-kun? Why do the people hate you so much? Naruto flinched and took an involuntary step back. Suddenly, he felt like he was suffocating. His heart was pounding too fast. His breaths were coming too quickly. He tried to swallow and couldn't. Hinata was still watching him and waiting for an answer. Don't look at me. Naruto-kun? Don't look at me. I have to go. Naruto ran. Mato Guy frowned at his youthful students, two of whom were decidedly unyouthful this fine morning. His third student, Lee, kept glancing at his friends in concern. Guy was absolutely delighted to see his favorite student display such youthful care and affection for his friends. Yash! Naruto had been unnaturally subdued, only perking up when he sparred with Lee, and his performance had been lackluster. Usually, he and Lee did their best to outperform each other. But lately, he did not seem to have the energy. In fact, he was barely keeping up with Lee. His normal vivacity was nowhere to be found. Hinata was even worse. She had dark circles under her eyes, evidence of sleepless nights, and her movements, usually graceful and fluid, were clumsy and stilted. Her performance was appalling. In just 2 days, she seemed to regress 2 years. Naruto refused to look at Hinata, which made his sparring sessions with her very interesting indeed, and Hinata only had eyes for Naruto, which made teaching her anything a nigh impossible feat. It was clear that something had happened between them. Guy thought himself a patient man. He did not arrive at his current skill level by taking shortcuts, after all, and understood that even among the best of friends, sometimes differences of opinion were unavoidable. He had given them a few days to work through their differences on their own. Now, he was going to insist on it. Practice is over for today, he said sternly. 3 heads shot up to stare at him in surprise. They had only completed 3 laps around Konoha and only performed several hundred sit-ups, push-ups, and squats. That didn't even count as a warm-up. Lee and Hinata were shocked into silence. Naruto opened his mouth to object but was forestalled when Guy held up his hand for silence. Practice is over for today, he repeated. It is clear to me that 2 of you are only wasting your time. Naruto. Hinata. Where has your youth gone? Your flames have been doused. I do not know what caused this quarrel between you, nor do I want to know. However, it is hurting your training. You must put an end to it. Or I will put an end to your training. Hinata gasped. Naruto simply looked away in shame. Guy-sensei Lee bit his lip in distress and spoke up for his friends. Surely, you don't mean that. Lee, it brings me great joy to see that you care for your friends. But they must recover their focus. Otherwise, no matter how much I train them, they will not learn. Do you understand? Lee nodded reluctantly. Guy-sensei Naruto started, but then he stopped. What could he say? He didn't know. Lee and I are going to finish our warm-up with another lap around the village. Then we will train at the Academy Dojo for today. Naruto. Hinata. You two should stay here and clear the misunderstanding between you. If you cannot reach an accord, please do not come back tomorrow. Guy ruffled Naruto's hair with his right hand and gently pat Hinata's shoulder with his left. He smiled, not one of his blinding white smiles with teeth, but a soft smile that only lifted corners of his mouth. It was strangely out of place on him, yet felt so right. I hope that you will return to me tomorrow. I have faith in you. Guy stepped back and motioned to Lee. Come, Lee. We shall leave them alone. Naruto and Hinata have something to do that is more important than training. Naruto watched with a sense of dread as Guy-sensei and Lee ran off. He had hoped that Hinata would not notice the hatred and the angry looks directed at him. He had hoped that she wouldn't see how unpleasant the villagers were to him. It was futile, of course. As much as he wanted to, they couldn't always hang out in unpopulated areas, like empty training grounds or empty park benches. It was impossible. Hinata was smart, and with her eyes observant. She was too observant. He could feel Hinata watching him and tried to push back his rising panic. He was afraid. His fear was like ice in his veins, it froze his heart, but instead of numbness, it brought cold pain. Could she see it? Could she see the reason he was so hated? And if she did, would she hate him too? He couldn't go back to the way things were. Alone. Friendless. Don't look at me. Please don't look at me. They say that curiosity killed the cat. Hinata wished that it killed her instead. Hinata blinked back tears. She shouldn't have asked him. It was none of her business. She had invaded his privacy. She had offended him so much that he'd run away from her. And now he wouldn't even look at her. She had tried to talk to him after classes, so that she could apologize. But apparently, he didn't want to talk to her because he'd run away from her then, too. He hadn't even stopped when she called for him to wait. This was her chance to apologize, to beg for his forgiveness. She desperately wanted her friend back. The silence that lingered between them was stifling. Hinata broke first. You don't have to tell me, she blurted. What? Naruto jerked his head up to finally look at her, and was shocked at how miserable she looked. The other day I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry. I know I made you angry. It's none of my business. So I'm sorry. You don't have to tell me. So please can we still be friends? Despite her best effort, the tears fell. She raised her hand to wipe them away when she felt Naruto's hand stop her. She froze when she felt his hands on her face gently wiping her tears for her. Naruto stared stupidly at her tears. Is she crying because of me? The dampness underneath his fingertips confirmed what his eyes were telling him. Idiot! He had been so worried that she might hate him, that she might not want to his friend anymore, that it never even occurred to him that she might worry about the same thing. And now he'd made her cry. Stupid! He mentally kicked himself. Hinata deserved his honesty. You don't have to be sorry, Naruto said softly. You asked why everyone hates me. I want to tell you. I would love to tell you why everyone hates me, why I've been told on more than one occasion to drop dead. If I died today, I'd bet my life that they'd all be celebrating and dancing in the streets tomorrow. He resolutely ignored her horrified expression. I want to tell you why because that would mean that I know the reason why. But I don't. I can't answer your question. Hinata looked searchingly at his face. Naruto's expression was pained, but he was telling the truth. She could tell. Stop it. Stop what? She asked, confused. Naruto let his hands fall and turned his back to her. He tensed. He could still feel her eyes on him. Stop looking at me. Hinata almost jumped at his rough command. I hate looking in the mirror. Every time I look in the mirror I try to find it. It? The thing that makes me so repulsive to look at. The thing that makes everyone turn away from me. The thing that makes everyone treat me like I'm a monster. I've spent hours in front of the mirror trying to find it. Maybe I'm just stupid and ignorant like they say because I've never been able to find it. But you're smart, Hinata-chan, much smarter than I am. I know that if you look at me long enough you'll find it. You'll see what they see. And you'll hate me too. So please don't look at me. I don't want you to hate me. The pain and self-loathing in his voice hurt her heart, and cancelled out the joy that she felt upon discovering that Naruto didn't hate her, after all. In fact, Naruto thought that she might hate him. That's impossible, she said firmly. She eyed him carefully. He looked ready to run again, but I won't let you. Just to be safe, Hinata took one of his hands in both of hers and held it tightly. There is nothing you could ever do that would make me hate you. You don't know that. Naruto still wouldn't look at her. Instead, his eyes were fixed on their joined hands, as if he couldn't believe she was still there. Have you ever deliberately hurt anyone? No. Do you plan to turn traitor and leave the village? No. Have you ever betrayed me or exposed my secrets? No. Are you only pretending to be my friend so that you can steal the secrets of the Byakugan? No. Naruto was horrified that she might even think such a thing. I would never. Then why would I ever hate you? I don't know, Naruto admitted. He still sounded hesitant and uncertain, but at least, he was looking at her now. Everyone else does. Why wouldn't you? Well, maybe because I'm not everyone else. I'm your best friend. Hinata gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. Remember when Iruka-sensei covered Kekkai Genkai earlier this year? Naruto nodded. A Kekkai Genkai is a bloodline limit, a genetic trait, or ability passed down through generations, usually within clans. Since the ability can only be inherited through blood, the ability cannot be imitated or copied by other people, he quoted with perfect textbook accuracy. Do you remember what he said about my eyes? The Byakugan is the Kekkai Genkai of the Hyuga clan. It grants me exceptional vision. Byakugan. The veins around Hinata's eyes bulged as she activated her Byakugan. Instantly, the colors of the world faded into shades of gray while her peripheral vision expanded to encompass nearly 360 degrees, and she could see everything around her with sharp focus and perfect clarity. Naruto pulled away instinctively and tried to hide from her enhanced sight, but it was futile. Hinata refused to let go of his hand. She stared at him for several long moments. He fought hard not to squirm under her intense scrutiny. Finally, she released the Byakugan. "I've spent hours looking at you, Naruto-kun. I like watching you," she blushed, but forced herself to continue. "Have you thought that maybe the reason you can't find it is because it doesn't exist? All I see is my best friend, Uzumaki Naruto. Sometimes he's loud. And sometimes he's a bit dense and a bit obnoxious. Hey! But mostly, he's hardworking, energetic, and kind. I don't know what the villagers see when they look at you. But I think they must be blind and SDSD stupid because I see the most wonderful person I know." Hinata could feel the blood rushing to her face at her almost confession and fought to stay conscious. "Hinata-chan, what could he say to that?" Naruto looked at her in pure wonder and amazement. She meant every word. He was simultaneously elated and humbled. "And as someday, he'll be Hokage. Dadabayo." Naruto laughed. His catchphrase was so unexpected and sounded so hilarious coming from his shy friend that he couldn't help it. He caught the glint of mischief in her eyes. She was teasing him. He used his free hand to poke her in the ribs right where he knew she was the most ticklish. "You're making fun of me." He tried, and failed, to sound indignant. The smile on his face was a dead giveaway. He poked her again for good measure. Hinata giggled. "Thank you, Hinata-chan." "You're welcome, Naruto-kun." Present day. Naruto smiled at the bittersweet memory. That had been the worst. He hesitated to call it a fight because it hadn't been a fight, not exactly anyways, stumbling block in their long friendship. Afterwards, their friendship was stronger than ever. Hinata had really looked and didn't think there was anything wrong with him. Over the years, they did fight a handful of times, usually over something stupid and inconsequential. None of those subsequent fights ever made him feel as miserable as those few days before Gai-sensei forced them to work it out, because no matter what happened, Naruto was confident in the strength of their bond. He sighed. It was a good thing their bond was so strong, too, because Naruto was a terrible best friend. Naruto slowly stuffed his money back into Gamachan, his green frog-shaped wallet. It had been a gift from Hinata for his 8th birthday because she had noticed that he didn't own a wallet. Gamachan was special because it was the first birthday present he could remember receiving. As he picked up the loose change on his bed, his eyes fell on the walrus sleeping cap on the pillow, another gift from Hinata, this time for his 9th birthday, because the weather in Konoha had been unusually cold that year, and she had been worried that he might be cold at night. That was the first time he could remember anyone actually worrying about him. Under the pillow, hidden from sight, was a scroll on chakra theory with chakra control exercises specifically designed for young children. It was written in Hinata's neat calligraphy. She had painstakingly copied it from one of the training scrolls in the Hyuga library and presented it to him for his 10th birthday, because that was the year they started practicing jutsu techniques at the academy. That was when they discovered just how awful Naruto's chakra control was. He could barely perform the standard jutsu taught at the academy. The scroll didn't contain any secret Hyuga techniques, but it was intended for young Hyuga children. In fact, Hinata admitted that it was the first training scroll that all Hyuga children received when they first started learning Juken, the Hyuga gentle fist style. Therefore, the scroll was easy to read and understand. It explained chakra theory in such a way that even a 3-year-old could understand it. Naruto found it extremely helpful and practiced the simple chakra control exercises nightly. He only wished that the academy textbook had explained it even half as well. Hinata didn't mention it, but by then, Naruto knew enough about the inner workings of the Hyuga clan to know that Hinata had taken a huge risk for him. If anyone discovered he had that scroll, she would be in deep trouble with her clan. Even though it didn't contain any secrets, it was still part of the clan's training methods and therefore off limits to outsiders. That scroll never left his apartment. And when he wasn't reading it, he kept it hidden. A few weeks before his 11th birthday, Hinata stopped by his apartment for a short visit. She had casually asked him about the large potted plant he kept beside his bed, so Naruto confessed to a secret love of gardening. That year, she gave him a high-quality gardening kit that was perfect for indoor use. It contained a small watering can, trowel, sharp clippers, and plant food, all in its own storage basket. The basket now sat on the floor between the potted plant and the bed. Naruto reached for his goggles and put them on. These were also a gift, for his 12th birthday. He knew that Hinata always listened to him. The goggles were concrete proof. Several days before his 12th birthday, he let his impatience get the better of him. He wanted to be a real ninja already. He complained about it vociferously. He didn't expect Hinata to actually do anything about it. It wasn't her fault, he was just an academy student and not a ninja. It was just nice to know that she was paying attention to him. And he shamelessly took advantage of that fact. Looking back on it now, he was embarrassed about how childish he must have sounded. "I know it's not a leaf Hittite," Naruto-kun, Hinata said when he opened the box. "But you can wear it around your head like one and maybe you'll feel more like a real ninja. I hope you like it." He did. Naruto wore the goggles with pride. They sat on his forehead, instead of over his eyes, and he puffed up a teeny tiny bit. He wasn't a ninja yet, but the goggles did make him feel better. He felt like he was practicing for when he finally earned the right to wear the official leaf Hittite forehead protector. Thinking about all the gifts Hinata had given him over the years, Naruto came to one depressing conclusion. "I'm a terrible best friend." Every year, Hinata gave him wonderful birthday presents, gifts that, while not very expensive, were obviously chosen with great care. And what had he done for her? For Hinata's 8th birthday, he hadn't even known it was her birthday. No one, save Hinata, had ever given him a birthday present before. So he had never thought to give any birthday presents in return. He hadn't even thought to ask her when her birthday was. In fact, had Irika not casually asked him his plans for Hinata's birthday, he would have missed it entirely. Even so, it had been too late. Naruto had no time to get her anything, except a measly handmade birthday card and his heartfelt wishes for her to have a happy birthday. For Hinata's 9th birthday, the date snuck up on him. Naruto had been so preoccupied with training that he almost forgot. So he'd had no money saved to buy her anything. The only thing he had was a new bag of Konobaku candy, courtesy of Ichiraku Ajisen. Hinata insisted on sharing the candy with him, even though it was her birthday present. Naruto privately thought that sharing the candy defeated the purpose of him giving it to her in the first place. For Hinata's 10th birthday, he managed to save some money for a present, but forgot to account for the shopkeeper's right to refuse service policy, a policy that was reserved just for him. Naruto winced at the memory. He always had trouble buying things for himself. He didn't know why he had thought it might be different if he was buying something for Hinata. Naivete. Probably. In the end, he used the money to treat her to a meal at Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto winced again. That hadn't gone so well, either. Hinata had been sick that day. Her face had been beet red for the entire meal.